Story 1. Coworker won't stop mocking me after I transitioned to professionalism, and now his defiance is jeopardizing our department's success. I have gone from being a green, honestly unprofessional newbie to office culture to having considerably improved professional dialogue and interactions with my coworkers at the office I've been working in for over 3 years now. I paid especially close to your tips about communication, especially for those of us who are a little shy/awkward, as it were, and it's really helped, except for the one person I worked with more closely than anyone else, of course. I am a teapot reports processor and work in an office with one other person, a guy the same age as me, 25, who is the teapot records clerk. We both have the same boss, but I am largely responsible for supervising him and delegating what he does every day. Our jobs are pretty closely intertwined, filing and all of that is on my job description in addition to what I normally do, and vice versa, for him. We became friends pretty quickly and found in each other a mutual love of memes, music, stupid jokes, and being sarcastic 100% of the time. Normally this never got us in much trouble as long as we didn't get rowdy, and we are still able to work in the same space doing our own respective things. I am a very high performer and always have been, it's just my behavior that needed some serious tuning. But lately, since I made a turnaround professionalism, he seems to be pushing back on everything I say and ask him to do more than ever. He will deliberately ignore things I ask him to do a certain way, I'll do it differently when someone tells me to, gripes and complains loudly when I ask anything of him ever, and sometimes won't even answer basic questions. For example, one time I noticed he was covering overtime at the front desk and called upstairs to ask why. He responded to every variation of me asking why are you still upstairs? With your mother and would not give me an answer. There's also a lot of name calling, which I know is all facetious and I don't really get offended, but it does get grating to tell him hey, I need you to do this report and hear shut up, bitch in response, jokingly or not. It gets really profane in here, I'm talking tons of F-bombs and the C word, among everything else imaginable, and I am trying hard to curb as much of this as possible because this is just not how anyone should be talking at work regardless of who can overhear it, ever. We all joke and rib each other here, but neither I or anyone else comes anywhere close to how off the cuff he gets. I talked to our boss about it, and she advised me to sit him down and tell him what I expect of him and I have. His response to I need you to know when to stop with the jokes and listen to me or I need you to, can you make sure that gets done as I need your mom to stop. Hilarious. I tried to be more lighthearted like, haha, no but seriously, can you and not to be a buzzkill, but will you and that doesn't really help either. I've had sit-downs with my boss and him about it and he just gave manufactured answers, which satisfied my boss, but not me. I've asked her how much I can push back against this behavior without it overstepping my boundaries, since I am not officially his supervisor, and she said I can do whatever I feel is necessary to get him to cooperate, but nothing is working. My boss seems content to just tell me I've shot myself in the foot with this one as a result of too much joking around, and honestly she's probably right, but I really want to believe there is a way to turn this around because there isn't much chance he's going anywhere soon. I don't need this to be serious business all of the time, but this communication gap is frustrating at best, and his poor work ethic and refusal to do things I need him to do is dragging me and my department down. I'm worried I'll never be management material if I can't get this situation under control. I've had such good results with everyone else, but not this guy. Update 1. Not too long after my letter was published, boss, clerk, and I sat down to discuss my concerns. Boss said I'm here as a mediator only. Op, take it away and only cut in sparingly to clarify points or add her 2 cents. I brought up the communication issues with clerk and used the calling the front desk across to him as nothing actually being optional and those if you have time additions being passive aggressive. He got belligerent, his words, and decided to draw the line with me on what he would or wouldn't do, without telling me, or our boss, in any way. He figured I would take the hint based on his actions and behavior, long aggravated sighs, backtalk, tossing work I've left him back on my desk while I'm away from it instead of doing it because he didn't feel, should have to, your work for, you despite that the work I gave him is filing, and of course the silent treatment, but the only hint I got is that he was unwilling to do anything other than his usual bare minimum, so I'm sure by then my tone was something to behold, try as I may to not let it be. The conversation got really heated, almost within shouting levels, but thankfully we managed to reach an understanding and apologize to each other. We both agreed to work on the problems, my tone and his overall communication, and I also told him to stop the name calling, point blank, and he apologized and said he would. You know I'm just joking, right? Truth be told, I'm not entirely surprised by the tone comment. I tend to be easy to read. Even if I'm using the right words and keeping my expression neutral, my feelings come out in my voice. I've never been told it was a problem before now, though, and that's probably because I'm so unbelievably exasperated with this guy and have been for years. but I checked out a few books on communication from our professional learning objectives library in hopes of working on this, which is something I wanted to do anyway. I sort of have the feeling he may have heard the tone of my voice that way because he doesn't like to be told what to do. Think the bossy woman trope, but I'm willing to try and adjust my behavior and see if it makes any of the issues go away, especially given that it's a plausible issue for me to have. At this point, I seriously doubt his performance is going to change much, being halfway out the door already and given free rein to call what I ask him to do optional, but if I can at least curb the profanity, that's a start. Boss had absolutely nothing to say in regard to my tone or his refusal to do things other than to suggest some ways to delegate our workloads better. On the bright side, it's been a week or so and he hasn't called me any names in my softened language. What does your to-do list look like today? Can you fit in a couple reports? Seems to have helped somewhat. At one point he did interrupt me with "Be quiet op. Men are talking." And I flatly said not funny and he dropped both that and speaking to me at all for about an hour. If you can't say something nice. Update 2. Clerk's behavior quickly got worse. I walked into a conference room for a meeting that was empty save for him. He said, "We're voting you off the island," as I sat down. I thought I'd missed some kind of joke before walking in, so I said, "What?" With a small laugh, and he looked me in the eye and said, "Because nobody can ing stand you." He said something rude to me every time I opened my mouth. He'd either repeat what I said in a mocking voice or just say something crappy about my appearance or that my interests were stupid, or whatever. It was just everything. He started referring to me as woman, be quiet, woman. I sternly said, "Don't call me woman. It's degrading," which launched an extremely obnoxious back and forth about why I found it degrading when it's what I am. "Are you a self-hating feminist? Oops, I mean feminazi, etc." One time I asked, "Is there some reason you constantly feel the need to say mean things to me?" His answer was, "It's not mean if it's true." Boss was on lots of PTO for personal reasons around this time, so I just started writing everything down, date and time, stamping all of it. After a few weeks of this nonsense, I contacted HR and met with one of the reps. I figured it was time to take it a step further and my boss had been so far unhelpful. She told me, "Don't take it personally. So don't bother, you still look like SH when I'm putting on makeup, or you fat F backslash." When I said I was looking forward to the catered staff lunch later that day, what? Professional criticisms. HR lady asked me if I thought Clerk having an admin mom that's been here a long time was part of the issue. I said I wasn't sure, but I don't think he has cause to fear for his job because of it. Nobody would dare cross swords with her by firing her kid. HR's advice was for me to be even sterner with him and say things like, "Clerk, I've asked you to stop saying that and you aren't listening. Do I need to get boss involved?" Etc. So I did. So I had been doing, since I wrote to you the first time, and I got the typical "What, are you running to mommy?" Or the silent treatment. God, I love getting the silent treatment now. Boss kept telling me, "Just worry about you," when I'd bring up performance or scheduling concerns having to do with Clerk. Everybody said, "Just wait and see how it goes," which they'd been saying since before I first wrote in. I kinda just shut down. Kept my headphones on as much as I could, tried to pretend he didn't exist. He's full-time now, so I have no days of escape from him. There's nowhere else for us to do our work and we can't work from home. I'm just stuck with him. And he does just enough to keep him endeared. Our company is huge on just filling empty spaces with whoever they can find, shuffling people around and not really hiring to patch gaps the way they should, so this is pretty typical. A warm body is a warm body. I'm pretty fed up. I keep being told it's my responsibility to deal with this jerk. I keep feeling like it's my fault he's being inappropriate. Somehow I seem to be the only one who understands how consent works. Yes, I consented to being treated like this and went along with it. Now I am withdrawing that consent. How is this complicated? And most of all, I am just really sick of being verbally abused and disrespected in my workplace. I spend most of my nights and weekends shut up in my house, not talking to anyone, not going anywhere, and feeling like it's a chore when I have to. I don't eat, I can't sleep, I'm honestly just messed up about this. Some magical how, my work hasn't suffered, but I think my relationships with my coworkers are starting to deteriorate because I'm either totally withdrawing or kind of just flat and unenthusiastic. I try not to be, but I can sense that I am. My roommates noticed my mood change, too. It kinda sucks. But I'm hanging in there. I'll be moving back home to help my mom with some stuff, and save a little money / work on paying stuff off in the meantime, getting a car, and making some big, health-related changes come the first of the year. I'm looking for another job and hope to give my boss notice during my performance review in mid to late December. I know I'll find a good job because I have all your help and advice at my disposal, and now lots of experience and skills to pad my resume with. So thank you, and your readers, so much for being around and hearing me out. I don't feel as lost and hopeless as I probably would otherwise because of it. Smile update 3. Last year I wrote to you a couple times about my rude file clerk. My last update in December was so depressing. I actually cringed when I went back and looked at the posts about my situation to remind myself of what had been going on. I was in a pretty dark place, but I thought I'd write in one more time since there's finally a happy ending. Smile around mid-January or so, boss called me and Clerk into an informal meeting. Turns out, Clerk asked director about transferring to a different position as a clinic assistant, which means he would be on a different floor, doing completely unrelated stuff, and I'd basically never see him ever. It had been in the works for a while. I think based on what Clerk said, this probably came about right around the time of my second update, but they didn't want to mention it to me until they knew for sure what was going to happen. I think they were both nervous about how I would react. I was kinda taken aback at first, but that was mostly because I thought Clerk wanted to leave the company, not get more involved, but he did always say that he just really hates sitting at a desk all day shuffling papers, so I wasn't totally shocked. It's a good change for us both, since now he gets to work with patients and be up in the thick of the activity all day, and I get my peace and quiet, and no verbal abuse. We talked a bit about some of the plans for the department, and I was pretty excited about making some changes, and boss also alluded to the possibility of a title bump/raise, which is exciting. I actually waited until after the meeting and went back to talk to boss about my ideas one-on-one, since I didn't want Clerk to think I was eager for him to get gone so I could change absolutely everything. I mean, I am, but you know. I talked to Clerk after the meeting and it was pretty chill. Clerk has been switching over to the new position little by little and will probably fully shift over once we hire a new file clerk. We still haven't found anyone, so they're keeping Clerk dangling by a thread so we can at least say someone did a tiny bit of filing once a day. Derp. Right now I only see him for the first hour and a half of the day, then maybe half an hour right before we leave. We get along much better now, as I'm sure you can imagine. He's really happy with what he's doing now, and I've already gotten the ball rolling on some changes. Boss has been giving me more and more opportunities to take initiative and show some of the skills I picked up over the last year, thanks to reading your blog, and spent almost my entire performance review praising my improved communication skills up and down the block, so I think all the drama wound up paying off in the form of lessons learned. That, combined with finally buying my first car, unburdening myself of a lot of financial stress, and losing almost 40 pounds since the first of the year, has really flipped things turnways for me since December. I'm feeling good about my job again, and just in general, and can't wait to see what the future brings. Update 4. The good news, Rude Clerk still works here, but we basically never see each other ever. The upstairs, where he is, and downstairs, where I am, parts of our building are like two different worlds sometimes. We only ever cross paths if I go up there to deliver a report and he just so happens to be in the hallway, if I'm covering the front desk, or in the once-a-month staff meeting, maybe. Actually, I think he saw me hanging out in my car during my lunch break, because he was parked next to me and headed out to do the same thing. I rolled my windows up and rolled over to take a nap, so we didn't talk. Smile when we do see each other. We don't usually have time to say more than AE or what's good before we pass by. On the occasion that we do have time to chat, it's brief, friendly, and not wildly inappropriate. He seems like he's doing well, so I'm glad for him. So that saga is officially done and over with, at least. It took us until August to find a replacement for Rude Clerk, though, that was kind of a nightmare because I wound up doing his job and mine, plus a bunch of other stuff. But now we have new clerk and she's wonderful. She's about my age also, but not as, horrible. Boss has given me the green light to act as a supervisor to her, kind of like how I thought I was with Rude Clerk in the first place. I trained her and delegate her work and pretty much supervise everything she does outside of her timesheet. She has previous experience doing this stuff, too, so she's been able to jump right in and take a huge load off my shoulders, so that's great. I've really worked hard to keep my communication professional with her. I've worked on that with all my coworkers, actually. No social media, friendly but work-appropriate dialogue, etc. It's gone over pretty well. New clerk was just saying the other day that she thinks of me as more of a boss than boss, and that she likes working with me because I'm chill but know what I'm talking about. So, that's good feedback, I think? It's definitely been easier to maintain my work relationships because I'm not caught up in drama or encased in my personal feelings when trying to deliver feedback, so I can be more assertive and effective. Good stuff. The WTF news. Where do I start without getting long-winded? They created a new supervisory position for the reports folks, which bummed me way out because I wanted that job. You'll remember boss tempted me with a possible raise/title bump in my last update. That new position would have basically been what she was getting at. So, yeah, that didn't happen. I've been on many interviews over the summer, but none have really been what I'm looking for. I've had to remind myself not to jump at the first thing that isn't this place, to wait until I find the right thing. But then, just a few days ago, my new supervisor got fired and nobody, except them wanted the firing, I suppose, knows why. It was really shocking. She'd only been in the position for a month, after working here 3 years or so. So crazy. But I'm feeling a little bit hopeful that I might have a shot at that job now that she's gone, based on some conversations I've had in the aftermath. The trouble is deciding whether I want it after all this. I figure, while I'm here, I may as well take any opportunities I can get until it's time to go. More money is more money? It's been a crazy year, probably the most stressful I've ever had. But I know I wouldn't be where I'm at now, balancing on the precipice of either a promotion or a new job, without the help of your blog and readers, so I'm grateful for that. It's not the thrilling conclusion I thought it'd be when I wrote in last, but something good is coming for me soon, so I'm keeping my chin up. Update 5. It's Addison from the rude name calling clerk saga. I know I sent a lot of updates, but since it's the year anniversary of me leaving that horrible place I was at a week or so ago, I thought maybe it might be nice to share. I always kind of felt dumb about my last submission that was basically, hey guys, still here at this abusive job but I enjoy my work so hopefully it gets better someday, haha happy ending. And the commenters, bless them, were like this. Really isn't a happy ending at all. Oh how right they were. How I left is a long story but it basically goes like this. The position I had been waiting for finally opened up, which would have freed me from that dead-end crap department I was working in for 6 years, and actually would have made me rude clerk's direct supervisor. Ha ha ha. Our receptionist was interested too, so I helped her with her application and resume and said, hey, if you get it instead of me, I'll offer to take your spot at the front desk because I enjoy doing that too. I thought any move would be a good move at that point. New file clerk gal who I thought was cool said she didn't want the job. So I applied, had an interview with the important people, smashed it, thought I had it in the bag. Excitedly came back and told file clerk all about it. She asked me a bunch of questions but didn't seem super excited for me. Thought nothing of it. Next day, file clerk goes in for an interview for the same job, used everything I told receptionist and also her to blow it out of the park. I also happened across work IMs, left up in plain sight. I took screenshots, between receptionist and file clerk calling me horrible names and sharing info specifically to oust me from getting either job. I blocked and removed not just those two from social media but also everyone at the entire company that I had added and posted something mean about file clerk on Instagram. Dumb but I was so crushed. Receptionist made a dummy account to look at my stuff and screenshotted it, showed horrible boss, who got together with those two and told the big bosses that I had tagged file clerk in this post and was bullying and intimidating her in a show of poor sportsmanship. What's funny is shortly after posting this mean post, I went to horrible boss and gave her a brief account of the situation and asked her, do I have cause to feel upset that this is happening? I'm being used and betrayed and it's not even the job, I just feel hurt personally. I thought we were friends and horrible boss basically said to just get over it. So I did and deleted the post. That was all in the span of an hour. So yeah. Anyway, so they let me go the following Monday. They kept pressing me to give them the evidence that I said I had of being bullied myself, or to prove that they would have go way out of their way to see what I had posted / that it wasn't tagged and I refused. Why take a parting shot? I just wanted out of there, and it was the best day of my life. I cried for like an hour. And then my beautiful amazing best friend said, dude, you're free. Celebrate, and we got super tanked and partied all weekend. It was amazing. Then a few weeks later I flew out east to visit my crush that I've been friends with for 10 years. We made it happen, and I moved out east a month later. I had been wanting to leave the West Coast basically since I got there, never liked it, missed home so much. I found a place and a job, call center, nothing fancy, but I could write novels to you about how incredible HR has been treating me and how beautifully they're handling the COVID-19 crisis. They transitioned us fully to WFH and God, it's like night and day. I've already been given growth opportunities and they just treat me so well. It's a shock to my system, right away, and now I'm renting my own place for the first time in my life, live with an amazing partner. Tragically we're quarantined, apart at the moment but both healthy, got a super fluffy orange kitty, have great neighbors, and it's beautiful here. Also, like a week after I left that crap job I met my real dad for the first time. Thanks to 23M, never knew him. And he has this beautiful amazing family and welcomed me as his kid and is amazing and it's just, wow. Life is so good and it's just so interesting, isn't it, that all this seemed to come to me once I finally got free of that toxic cesspit I was working at. Update 6. It's been almost 2 years since I left that toxic workplace, and I can't believe how much my life has changed. I wanted to share another update because sometimes I still can't believe I spent so many years of my life in that situation, and maybe someone else needs to hear that there really is light at the end of the tunnel. First, the career stuff. I've been promoted twice at my call center job. After 6 months of consistently exceeding metrics, they moved me to a team lead position. I was terrified at first. My experience supervising rude clerk had left me with serious doubts about my leadership abilities. But my new manager, who is an absolute gem, sat me down and said, Addison, the reason we want you in this role is because you know what bad management looks like, and you're determined not to repeat it. That conversation changed everything for me. I've built a team that actually communicates respectfully, and when there are issues, we address them directly, instead of letting them fester. No passive-aggressive sighs, no your mom responses, no profanity-laced tirades. Just adults talking to other adults about work. Revolutionary, I know. 3 months ago, they promoted me again to department supervisor with a salary that's nearly double what I was making at Teapot Corp. I have my own office with a door that closes, and HR actually backs me up when I need support. The first time I had to write someone up for inappropriate workplace behavior, I was shaking, but our HR director walked me through it step by step, and the situation was resolved professionally. I almost cried afterward because it was so normal. On the personal front, my partner and I moved in together officially last summer. We found a cute little house to rent with a fenced yard for my orange fluff ball, who has since been joined by a sassy calico kitten we rescued from the shelter. The relationship is everything I didn't know I was missing, supportive, kind, and drama-free. We actually talk about our feelings instead of making crude jokes or giving each other the silent treatment. Who knew? The relationship with my biological dad has been one of the most healing experiences of my life. He's become this amazing father figure I never had, and his family has welcomed me with open arms. Last Christmas, his wife, my stepmom, gave me a photo album she'd made with spaces for pictures of me as a baby and child, which I provided, next to current photos of us together. I sobbed for an hour. I've also started therapy, which has helped me process just how abnormal my work situation was. My therapist pointed out that what I experienced was workplace bullying and harassment, and that the company's failure to address it was a form of institutional betrayal. Putting those labels on it has helped me understand why I felt so crazy and helpless for so long. Sometimes I wonder what happened to everyone back at Teapot Corp. Did rude clerk ever grow up? Did new clerk get sucked into the toxic culture? Did horrible boss ever face consequences for her complete failure to manage? I was tempted to check LinkedIn, but my therapist suggested that maintaining that distance is healthier for me. She's right, of course. The only person I've stayed in touch with is the receptionist from the floor above mine, not the one who betrayed me, but another kind soul who always made me feel seen when I was at my lowest. She told me that after I left, there was a massive restructuring, and several people, including horrible boss, were let go. Apparently, my departure triggered some kind of internal investigation. I won't pretend I didn't feel a little vindicated hearing that. I still have moments where I catch myself bracing for criticism or feeling anxious when my current boss calls me into her office. The trauma from those years didn't disappear overnight. But those moments are getting fewer and farther between. If you're reading this and stuck in a toxic workplace, please know that there is a whole world of healthy work environments out there. You deserve to be treated with basic human dignity. You deserve to be valued for your contributions. And most importantly, you deserve to leave work each day with your self-worth intact. Story 2. Proposed to work from home to nurture our son and spend more time with my stepdaughter. But my husband's rage left us shattered and divided. I am a saleswoman and I do very well for myself. My husband and I have been married for 2 years now and together for 5. This is my first marriage and my husband's second. He has an 8-year-old daughter from his previous relationship and has always had full custody of her. Our dating life was tricky with him being a full-time single dad and having to work long hours, but we made it work. I met his daughter when she was 4 after we had been dating for a year. I liked her very much and have always done my best to be the best stepmommy ever. She calls me mom and I have done all the mom things for her. I've helped her get dressed and ready for school, done her hair, cooked her meals, helped with homework and soccer practice, taken her for ice cream dates, tucked her into bed, read her stories, etc. I'm not perfect and I've made mistakes, but overall we've been a very happy family. When my husband and I got engaged, he asked if I would like to be a stay-at-home mom for Lizzie and any future children we had. At the time I politely declined. I was doing well in my career, loved going to work, and the thought of being home all day with a kid and doing nothing but housework and typical Som things didn't really tickle my fancy. My, then, fiancé was gracious and we both assumed it was how it would be for any future children we had. Fast forward to now and I am now 6 months pregnant with our son. I am on cloud 9. Am, always in a permanent state of bliss. And something in me changed. I started thinking about being a Som. And suddenly, it didn't seem so bad. I am in love with my son and want to spend as much time with him as I can. I know it's not all roses and champagne. There is actually a lot of poop, drool, screaming and exhaustion involved, but I can't really stand the thought of having 2 weeks maternity leave and then handing my son to a stranger in daycare. I've been thinking about this for months because I wanted to make sure this was something I really wanted and not wishful thinking. I weighed the pros and cons and spoke to my supervisor. I'm at the point in my career where I could work from home full-time and stay with my son and pick my stepdaughter up from school. I certainly wouldn't mind watching her and doing more things with her too. The more I think about it, the more I want to try this. So after I put little Lizzie to bed tonight, I asked my husband if we could talk and excitedly broached my idea. I was very unprepared for his reaction. My husband is furious. He yelled that we had agreed I wouldn't be a Som before we got married and it was bullshit. I was changing my mind now. He said I was a rotten stepmother and I clearly loved our son more than Lizzie, and it was disgusting the obvious favoritism I was showing him. He also said I shouldn't be allowed to stay at home with our son if his daughter didn't get to experience it with me. For the record, Lizzie is very excited about her little brother and can't wait for him to be born. She's never expressed any kind of anxiety, sadness or jealousy towards him or me. I was shocked and stunned. My husband is on the couch, his choice, and I'm here crying in our room. I am so very hurt by what my husband said. I know I'm not perfect, but I've really done the best for Lizzie that I could. I never thought I'd change my mind about being a Som when I got pregnant. But now I really, truly want to do this. And I wouldn't have to quit my job either. Which is a double bonus. I am very hurt by what my husband said and frankly a little angry at his accusation. I do not love the baby more than Lizzie. I do love Lizzie, and while I admit I feel a deeper connection to this baby, I feel that is due to the fact that I'm going through the experience of pregnancy and it's really hitting home for me. This baby is half me. But that doesn't mean I love Lizzie any less. It's just different. Is that really so wrong? Am I really a bad stepmom? I didn't plan on changing my mind, and again I still plan to keep my job and I don't mind taking extra care of Lizzie in addition to the baby. In fact, I think it might be a chance for us to grow closer and bond over the baby. I don't know what to say to my husband. I tried telling him all the things I've said here, including spending more time and growing closer to Lizzie, but all he did was yell louder and say more awful things about my parenting. I'm pretty crushed and honestly growing more angry by the minute. I feel that I am a good stepmom to Lizzie and she seems to think so too. The only one who seems to have a problem is my husband. Update 1. It was really helpful, as well as some of the possible suggestions as to why my husband suddenly blew up at me. I did get some nasty PMs from what sounded like bitter single dads, which only further convinced me my husband was being an absolute irrational jerk. To address some of the questions that were asked in the last post, at the time my husband asked me to be a SOM, we were not married, nor was I at a place in my career where I could have worked from home. I would have had to quit my job, which I did not want to do, to be a parent to a child that wasn't mine, to a man I wasn't married to but would have full financial dependence on. So that was a huge no-go for me, but even after we were married it took a while to still get to a place where I wouldn't have to quit my job to be a stay-at-home parent. To those who were saying I couldn't expect to work full-time from home and take care of an infant and grammar school girl, you're right. Maybe I worded it wrong or just didn't go into full details in my post, but while I would be working from home and I can do it without having to quit, I would be working part-time instead of full-time. My supervisor is 100% fine with this. So basically I would have 2 weeks maternity leave and then I would be working from home part-time. While I will take a cut in pay, my company is great and is letting me keep full benefits despite part-time hours. I know my husband isn't worried about finances because even if I quit he makes more than enough to comfortably support us. I just love working too much to completely quit, but my son is definitely a priority for me. Lizzie's mom is in the picture but just barely. She has borderline personality disorder, drinks like a fish and is just basically an irresponsible party animal. She sees Lizzie maybe one weekend a month if she isn't too hungover or stoned to make an effort. The only nice thing I can say about her is that at least she makes child support payments on time, minuscule as they are. Lizzie doesn't like her very much and has made it clear she prefers me to her mother. I can't say I blame her, poor dear. So, I went to bed that night very angry after my crying jag, because I love Lizzie and have been a great mom to her. The next couple of days were very quiet. I was distant but polite to my husband and still warm and cuddly with Lizzie. I didn't really want anything to do with him. My husband started picking on everything I did for Lizzie and around the house. Started saying more things like, "Why are you bothering? And that's not how this should be done, and I'll bet that makes you feel just great." I had had enough. After I put Lizzie to bed I told my husband I was sick of his nasty attitude and he was setting a toxic environment for his daughter and that if he had something to say, he should say it. He started to yell and scream again, but I put my foot down this time. I said I want to work through whatever problems we have and get this issue resolved because I love you and care about you. But I will not take toxic abusive behavior. I will not talk to you until you are ready to be respectful and kind. My husband lost it even more and screamed, "I'm sleeping on the couch." So I said, "Excuse me? I am heavily pregnant with your son and every part of me hurts. I need access to the bathroom when I wake up at night. I will be sleeping in the bed. You can either join me if you can be quiet or you can sleep out here." He seemed kind of taken aback and I just left and went to bed. I guess he slept on the couch. The next day after Lizzie went to bed I said that I think we need to set up an appointment with a marriage counselor. My husband said I'm the only one with a problem so he won't go. I asked him to please tell me what was bothering him then so we can work through it. In a nutshell, he is pissed I didn't want to quit my job and be a SOM for Lizzie, but I do for our son, and so therefore I love our son more and that makes me a terrible person. I explained like I had before I didn't want to quit my job and be dependent on a man I wasn't married to. He got very defensive and said it's clear I've never trusted him then and that makes me a bad wife and mother. I asked why didn't he quit his job then and be a sod? He blustered a bit then responded he makes more, true, and children need a mom during the early years more than a dad. He also said that since Lizzie never had the experience of a SOM then our son shouldn't have the favoritism of getting it either because it wasn't fair to Lizzie. I said it was ridiculous to punish me and our son for being unable to travel back in time and to change the uterus Lizzie was conceived in. I also said infants need a lot more care than pre-K kids. That opened up a whole other can of worms with my husband resents me for not quitting work and being a full-time SOM and that if I'm going to do something I should do it fully engaged. What? He then went on and on about how I'm breaking our agreement for me to not be a stay-at-home parent and how that makes me unstable. I pointed out I have a right to change my mind and I won't give my baby to a stranger to raise while fretting about him all day at the office. I said I was very willing to do more things with Lizzie, like take her to the zoo and museums with the baby, get involved at PTA at her school, and go to her sporting events so me and her brother can watch her while she practices. I said this is healthy for all the children and he had a warped view of justice and fairness by depriving our children of a healthy environment because Lizzie's mom was an unfit parent. I said his guilt won't go away by taking opportunities away from our kids and that I was willing to work out whatever issues there were and to go to a counselor and speak to child psychologists and other professionals that could give him an unbiased professional opinion. No, he became violently angry again and said I was going back to work 2 weeks after the birth and that was the end of the discussion. That I had had my chance to be a SOM and since I didn't take it for Lizzie when I could, I wasn't allowed to do it now since he wouldn't let me. Now, as much as I love my husband and our children, I will not be controlled. I will not be told where I can and can't work. I will not be told if I can or can't work. I am not a dog, and I am not a slave. I will not be told to deny my own baby his mother and hand him to a stranger because his sister got a bad start in life. Purposely neglecting your own child opportunities in the name of fairness is insane. That is being a bad parent. The fact that my husband wanted to do this to me and my son flipped a switch in me. I stood up calmly and told my husband I was leaving. That he had crossed the line and I needed space from him and that I would not subject any child of mine to this kind of abusive, controlling environment. I said when things calm down we can go to marriage counseling, because he clearly has deep-seated issues that need to be worked out. He became hysterical and said I can't leave, that we have a family, that I can't take his son, etc. etc. I was just done by that point. I said that for once he will take Lizzie to school and I will leave during that time. I went to our room and started packing. He started throwing my clothes out of the suitcase and screaming at me. I was honestly pretty terrified. I had never seen my husband like this. I told him if he tries to prevent me from going or touches me in any way I would be calling the police. I also said I was calling my mother to come and get me. Maybe it was an overreaction but I was scared senseless and I just wanted to get myself and my son away from it. He started crying really hard, just sobbing and walked away. I called my mother and said she needed to come and get me immediately, that I didn't feel safe and I needed to stay with her for a bit. I quickly packed what I needed and my mom came and got me. I've been with her for about 5 days now and I feel just numb. I can't believe how fast this all happened and how my family and marriage got turned upside down in just a few days. I wish I had never brought up being a stay-at-home parent. If I thought this never would have happened. My husband and I were NC for a couple days and then he started texting and calling on day 3, saying Lizzie has been crying for me and misses me. I've ascertained that Lizzie is safe. I know my husband would never mistreat her but I spoke to her yesterday anyways and made sure she's being fed, going to school and doing her homework. She was crying and asked me when I'm coming back and I didn't know what to say to that so I said I didn't know but that I love her very much. I told my husband to stop using Lizzie as a pawn to manipulate me into coming back because it won't work. He actually said I'm proving I'm a terrible step-parent by not coming back and being there for her. I said that if I'm so terrible he shouldn't want me back then and to not speak to me again until he is ready to go to counseling and leave Lizzie out of our problems. I said if Lizzie is mentioned in any text or email I will delete it without reading the rest of it. I said any phone call where he tries to bring her up outside the context of her being safe and taken care of I will immediately hang up on. I said I do not want to talk to him right now and he should figure out what he wants because I'm ready to file for divorce if he doesn't pull it together soon. My husband started crying again but I just hung up because I was too exhausted to deal with any more that day. He's been silent since except for one text I got today saying he wants me back and misses me. I really don't know where to go from here. I'm still trying to process all of it, although writing it down here helps. I just can't believe my husband did all of this and am wondering if he just had a psychotic break. I'm wondering what red flags I've missed all this time and why I was stupid enough to marry and have a family with this guy and how could I have been so blind. I want to divorce him but I'm not ready to head for the divorce court yet. I want some space and time to process it all and see if my husband shows signs of wanting to go to counseling or trying to repair the damage done. If this was just a one-time thing or if this is who he really is. I feel terrible for Lizzie but I can't put myself or my son in jeopardy by moving back out of guilt. I'm being selfish right now and saying that my son and I are priority right now. I have to do what's best for my son. Update 2. I know it's been a long time but I just wanted to give a brief update while I still have time. I put small whales to shame with my current size and my baby is ready to burst out of me in just a few weeks although he technically could come any day now. So, after my last post, my husband's brother and best friend went over there to figure out what the hell was going on. Boss was gracious and let me start maternity leave early, saying to take my time and figure out what I'm going to do and my job is ready for me when I come back. So they are taking really good care of me. I also got a personal therapist because obvious reasons are obvious. I was a numb shell for a while and one day I just broke and started crying and crying and crying and could not stop for the life of me. I don't think I've cried that hard ever in my life. My therapist has been a great part of my support system and guiding me through my issues and supporting my decisions. So, as I said, my husband's brother and friend went over there to talk to him. And they told me that he told them he was pissed off I was breaking our previous agreement and that he couldn't help but feel I didn't love Lizzie or that I loved our son more and that maybe he made a mistake marrying me because now I was picking sides and being unstable and that I had left when. He told me to treat the children fairly because he didn't think our son should get a SOM because Lizzie didn't. And they completely ripped into him. His best friend, Craig, asked him what the fuck was he on to come to such a ridiculous conclusion. He pointed out all I had ever done for Lizzie and that me being a part-time working SOM would benefit her too because I would be able to do more things with her and spend more time with her. And also that he was a moron and I was smart and clearly not after his money because I could have been in SOM for just her and let him be the sole financial provider but I didn't. His brother, Daniel, was even more blunt. Daniel called my husband an asshole and douchebag and said point blank he didn't deserve me. He said my husband was being a controlling jerk and punishing me for his bitch of an ex-wife he shouldn't have married and reproduced with in the first place. Apparently there is a lot of family anger on my husband's side for him marrying and having a kid with his ex-wife and I won't go into it. Anyways, Daniel said I was the best thing to ever happen to him, my husband, and Lizzie and he was ruining it with his own 2 hands and he better man the fuck up and get over his ex and start treating me better and appreciating me more. and that he was being a shitty parent to Lizzie and our son by thinking that forcing me to return to work was okay because that made it fair. And that I was a far better mother to Lizzie than his ex ever was, and I did a damn good job of showing my love for her. I wrote that my husband started texting me in my last post, and then he started blowing up my phone, begging me to come back, that he couldn't function, etc. He also broke my rule and said Lizzie wasn't doing well without me, which really angered me and broke my heart because I love that little girl, but it felt so manipulative. I basically told my husband if he continues to use Lizzie as a reason I should come back, I would be filing for divorce because I would not be with someone who uses a child as a manipulative tool. And that I didn't want to be a replacement mom for Lizzie, I wanted to be his wife and have a family with him that included Lizzie. I said get a therapist and into couples counseling with me, or he would be getting divorce papers because I will not have my son in a toxic, controlling environment. My husband agreed to both, saying he couldn't live without me and he knew he needed help. Our couples therapist was great. She touched on all the issues I wrote about and tried to get my husband to see he was being unfair and controlling, and that, while it was understandable he would have a lot of fear and pain from his previous marriage, it was cruel to take out his issues on me because I had never wronged him and was not his ex-wife, so why was he making for me paying for what she did to him? It basically boiled down to my husband being afraid of me becoming like his ex and that I would favor our son and hurt his daughter or love her anymore. The therapist touched on the issue of his kids versus our kids. She said my husband needed to keep in mind that it is natural to feel more connected and attached to biological children as opposed to stepchildren. She told my husband that while both Lizzie and our son were his children, this was not the case for me, and not only was that natural and expected, it was okay. She asked had I not been loving and kind with Lizzie, had I not taken care of her, did I go out of my way and sacrifice for her as would any other parent do? My husband replied hesitantly but positively to all the questions. So she said then there was nothing wrong with my feelings or changing my mind, as long as I continued to treat Lizzie with love, respect and kindness, that there wasn't a problem. She also pointed out that while he might be affronted because Lizzie is also his biological child, it was not fair of him to expect I feel the same love and connection to her as he did. That it was, in fact, impossible because I had not carried her, gave birth to her, nursed her and didn't come into my life until she was already a little girl. She said there are many kinds of love, and me having this special bond with the baby and wanting to stay home and nest was not only natural, it didn't mean I had lost any maternal love for Lizzie. That it wasn't less or wrong or unfair, just different, and that one of the biggest mistakes biological parents make with the step-parent is guilting or bullying them about their feelings towards step-children versus biological children and insisting it has to be exactly the same. She said while that is also a natural and protective instinct, that the biological parent actually ends up being the one causing friction and tension and making both step-parent and child feel inferior, and if care isn't taken, the step-child can end up being the favored one because the biological parent tries to make up for a favoritism they believe exists. This was starting to be my feeling. She wrapped up by saying parents even tend to have favorites among biological children, but that the key was to not act on that or make it obvious. And that was what I was doing, and that it sounded like I'd done a great job so far and that we were even ahead of the game because Lizzie was excited about the pregnancy and had a very positive and close relationship with me. My husband tried to argue saying me staying home with our son but not her was blatant favoritism. The therapist countered with many of the points made in the last post. 1. That I was not in a place in my career at the time to work from home. I would have had to quit my job at the time in order to do so. 2. I was not in a place in our relationship to be a SOM. I was not yet married and didn't feel comfortable giving up all my financial security without being married. 3. That Lizzie was already ready to be in preschool, she wasn't an infant, and that most people wouldn't want to give up a career they loved to stay home full-time to a child that didn't need full-time care and that they had no biological connection to. 4. Lizzie wouldn't know the difference because she was old enough to know I wasn't her mother and didn't come into the picture until she was past the baby/toddler stage, and that even small children can understand babies need more care than preschoolers, especially if it is explained calmly to them. In short, she said the fact I was more than happy to spend more time with Lizzie, wanted her to be in the baby's life, wasn't being territorial or aggressive about the pregnancy and was still taking an active role in Lizzie's life were very good signs, and that we were, in fact, doing much better than many step families in our position. I'm sorry to say my husband tried but just couldn't accept it. We tried going on family outings more and therapy, but he backed out saying he felt he was being ganged up on and that no one was on his side. He simply couldn't see why I should stay home to work with a baby. I asked point blank if he even wanted the baby and seemed shocked and said of course he did. He just wanted to make sure his daughter got what was owed to her. In the end, he refused to compromise. And frankly, I saw it as being blatantly unfair and cruel to our son to insist he had to be put in daycare or given to a nanny or au pair. All in the name of fairness, despite both his therapist and ours explaining fairness does not always mean equality. It's like he didn't want to see how me being a SOM would also greatly benefit his daughter. I think my husband expected me to cave. All it did was make me lose love and affection for him, especially when he quit therapy. I warned him if he did or tried to insist on having his way I would be filing for at the very least legal separation. I think he thought I was bluffing. Because when nothing changed I went straight to the attorney's office. He was completely shocked when I had him served. I have arranged a semi-formal custody arrangement. I will keep the working from home arrangement while staying with my parents. My husband is not allowed to be in the birthing room when I go into labor, he has to stay in the waiting room. He can see and hold our son, but he will have to do it while I am there with someone else there. I insisted on this because I am frankly very afraid now of my husband and do not trust him at all. My husband is consumed with shock and grief. His family is furious with him and completely supports me, although of course they are very upset by the whole thing. I have told all of his family they are more than welcome to come to the birth and hold the baby. In fact, I want them there so they can supervise my husband with the baby so he doesn't do something horrible. My husband texts and calls and emails me constantly. He says he can't believe I'm doing this. Why can't I listen to him and understand him? Please come back and be a family. Again, etc. I have told him he needs to get back into therapy and that I need to be able to trust him with our son, and that trust will only come when I see a change in his attitude regarding our son and my stepdaughter. And that I need to feel like a wife to him and not just a mom to Lizzie. I love Lizzie. I truly do. I cry every day over losing her. But I didn't marry my husband to be her mom, although I knew that was part of the package deal. I did it because I loved my husband and wanted a life with him. Lizzie calls me often and I talk to her. I've seen her a few times since this fiasco. Her father is not allowed to talk about her to me because I feel he's being manipulative. But I don't want to cut Lizzie out cold turkey either. I love that girl, I truly do, and I've cried so many tears over her going through this. I tell Lizzie I love her very much, that none of this is her fault, and that I'm doing the best I can to make things work. I tell her I still want her to be in my life and her brother's life and that she's the best bonus daughter and sister in the world. I've heard, from my husband's family, Lizzie is not taking our separation well and has even screamed at her dad for making both of my mommies leave. I've been afraid Lizzie would hate me for this, but, in fact, just the opposite has happened. Her grades are failing, she's depressed and she cries all the time and has become very disrespectful to her dad. I have begged my husband to please get that girl counseling and he is, which has been helping her. The guilt I feel is overwhelming and crushing. I feel like I've single-handedly destroyed my family, but I know I am making the right decision by sticking to my guns and insisting I be treated with love and respect and that my husband do the same for both of the kids. I can't fix him, and if he's unwilling to get help for his issues, I have no future with him. I'm not willing to go for divorce yet, hence the legal separation. My husband insists he wants this to work. I said I need to see changes in his life, starting with him getting back into therapy. I want to save my marriage, but I've done all I can, and if my husband won't do his part, there's nothing I can do except move on. I've told my husband if he has not gotten therapy by the time our son is a month old, I will be filing for divorce, and that if he abuses me, hurts me, or even thinks of dating other people, again, I will be filing for divorce. Story 3. Neighbor blocked me in with his son's oversized truck after I told him it couldn't park on my driveway, so I had it towed. I'm a single mother of 2 teenage boys and I live in a nice, quiet neighborhood at the end of a cul-de-sac. Every house on this street has a garage and I'm the only one that has a single car and parks in my garage. Almost every house on this street is a family home with at least 3 cars, but most have more. Some will park in their driveway and some will park on the street. It's never been a problem since everyone is considerate on how they park and no one has ever had an issue with getting in and out of the street. In addition, I tend to keep to myself. I'm not antisocial and I wave and say hello to my neighbors when I come and go from my home, but usually when I get home, I stay home. So, I say all of this to give you an idea that I'm a homebody and my neighbors pretty much know that when I get home, I stay home. About 6 months ago, the house to my right was sold to a larger family that consisted of dad, mom, and 3 teenagers. The day they started moving in, I made a point to go over to the edge of the property to wave and greet them in order to welcome them to the neighborhood. They were friendly and I was happy to have such nice people to move in next door. Also note, this family used their garage for storage and thus parked their 4 cars in their driveway. I didn't know it at the time, but their youngest son was just months away from his 16th birthday. Now that you have a little information, onto the story. The players, me is me, ND is entitled neighbor dad, NS is entitled neighbor son, and NM is entitled neighbor mom, and NP is the poor nice police officer. Today is Monday afternoon and this story began last Tuesday. Around 6 p.m. on Tuesday, I received a knock on the door and it was ND. Following is our conversation. ND, good evening, how are you? Me, talking through the screen door, we're okay. I'm sorry I can't open the door, but my youngest came home from school with a sore throat today and so I'm not sure what's going on with him. How are you and how can I help? ND, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope it isn't anything serious. We are okay. My son just turned 16 a few weeks ago and I'm sure you saw the new truck we bought him. Me, yes, I did. It's such a pretty truck and big. Does he like it? ND, yes, he does. It's what he wanted so we got it for him. It is very big and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Me, I don't understand? ND, we have been having complaints from some of the other neighbors that his truck is so big that they can't get around it when they are driving through and we're afraid that it might get sideswiped if he continues to park it in the street. Me, yeah, I've had some intense moments trying to get around it myself, but I'm sure he will get better at parking as he gets more experienced. I'm not sure what this has to do with me, I haven't complained. ND, oh, I know you haven't complained, which is why I was going to ask if you could use your driveway to park since you don't use it. Me, very stunned at this. I do use my driveway when I leave and come home. I can't get to my garage without using my driveway. Besides, I have issues with depth perception and your son's truck is so big it will take up most of my driveway and I don't want to be responsible for any damage that might happen while it is on my property. ND, well, we will make sure that he parks so that it will allow you to come and go without any issues. Me, that isn't possible. The only way he can park to allow me to get around him is if he parks halfway on my lawn, and it wouldn't work because then he would damage my lawn. If you are concerned about his truck getting damaged, then why don't you let him park in your driveway and then one of your other smaller cars can park in the street. ND, we've already discussed that and we would have to park 2 cars in the street in order for him to use the driveway. It would be very easy for him to park in your driveway and I can assure you that it will not be an inconvenience to you. You don't even use your driveway. Me, I'm sorry, but the answer is no. I'm not going to be responsible for his vehicle on my property and I need to be able to come and go without worrying about someone else's property. ND, very upset at this point, you are not being very neighborly. I thought you were a nice woman. You don't use your driveway and this would benefit the whole neighborhood. Me, losing my temper at this point, listen, I told you no and I do use my driveway every time I pull into my garage and every time I leave. I'm sorry you don't have enough parking for all your vehicles. I'm sure it's frustrating, but it's not my problem that you decided to buy a vehicle that didn't fit your property. Now, while I also find it irritating to try to navigate the road with that truck in the way, it is public parking and so I deal with it. I will not have anyone else's vehicle parking on my property. Now, if you don't mind, I have a sick kid and need to get back to him. Have a good day. With that I closed the door and then looked out the peephole and saw him give me the bird before he turned to leave. I just shook my head and had to take a moment to understand that I actually just had that conversation. I then loaded my son up in the car and left to take him to minor emergency to get him checked out. All tests came back negative and I was told he probably had a run-of-the-mill virus and to keep him home and do self-care. Was told to bring him in if he got worse but not to worry. I went to work the next day and told my coworkers the story of my neighbor's request and they were shocked. I had one coworker suggest that I send an email to my HOA to explain what happened just to get it on record because it was such an odd request. I took her advice and typed up an email that day when I was at lunch and sent it. For those who want to know, it was just an FYI email, not a complaint email. It basically stated that my neighbor made a request to park on my property and when I declined, he got mad at me and I wanted it on record just in case anything ever happens. So very glad I did. So, Friday comes and my youngest son has been homesick since Tuesday afternoon. When I got home Friday evening, I checked him and he had begun to run a fever and was complaining of several other things. I had been doing self-care with him since Tuesday and he didn't appear to be getting any better. Around 7 p.m., I decided to take him back to minor emergency and loaded him up in the car. I opened my garage door and I was absolutely shocked to see that very big F-350 sitting in my driveway, blocking me. I can't describe to you how angry I was to see that vehicle sitting there. So, I get out of my car and stomp over to my neighbor's house and bang on their door. NM answers the door and this is the conversation. NM, irritated and kind of angry. Can I help you? You are interrupting our dinner. Me, your son is parked in my driveway after I told your husband he couldn't. I need to take my son to minor emergency and that truck is blocking me in. ND, he isn't blocking you in, you can get around him. Me, no I can't. You need to move that truck or I'm going to call the police and a tow truck. I need to get my son in to see a doctor. ND, turning to call for his son and then turning back to me, he's not blocking you but I will have him move it. Me, it doesn't matter whether you believe he is blocking me in or not. He is not allowed to park in my driveway. No one is allowed to park in my driveway and if I find an unauthorized vehicle parked in my driveway again, I'm not going to bother to knock on your door, I'm going to have it towed. It was at this time I saw the son arrive at the door with his keys in his hands and I turned to leave and head to my car to wait for him to move it and I heard him call me that famous B word every woman has heard at least once in her life. I ignored him and headed to my car and watched as he got in and after some effort finally was able to back out of my driveway and parked his truck in the street a little way down the road. I was able to leave and take my son to minor emergency where, as we waited for several hours to be seen, I shot off another email to my HOA about what had just happened. I want to advise, the HOA had already responded the day before that they received my email, made a note of it, and advised my property was my own and I could give or deny access to it as I wish. It was this email string that I responded to while waiting for my kid to be seen. Again, all tests administered to my son came back negative and I was told it was a run-of-the-mill virus and he would be fine. The virus just had to run its course. I took him home and called it a day. Saturday evening, my oldest started complaining of a sore throat and I was starting to feel poorly myself. My youngest appeared to be getting better so I figured that whatever he had, that we were getting so we stayed in all day Saturday and Sunday. Sunday evening at about 5:30 my oldest son spiked a fever and while it came down a little, it didn't come down enough so I loaded him in the car and off to minor emergency we went. The only one I could find that was open on Sunday at this time was on the other side of town so I had to drive 20 minutes just to get there and we ended up waiting for 3 hours to just get in the door and then another 45 minutes till we saw the doctor. After a few more hours and all of his tests come back negative the doctor did state that she could hear some wheezing in his lungs and so she prescribed an inhaler for him to help him but basically told me the same thing that he has a run-of-the-mill virus and to let it run its course. I had to drive even further to the only 24-hour pharmacy available to pick up the inhaler, and we did not get back to the house until almost midnight. Let me set the scene for you. My son is half asleep in the passenger seat and complaining that he just wants to go home, and I am exhausted and feeling drained and having coughing fits myself, and I'm just looking forward to going to bed when I rounded the corner and saw that truck sitting in my driveway. I couldn't even pull in because he was blocking me, and I also noticed that he was parked partially on my lawn. I was so mad I could hardly see straight. I googled and found a 24-hour tow truck service and explained that I had an unauthorized vehicle on my property that I needed towing. The woman said it would be about 30 minutes before they could get a truck there, and I said that was fine. In the meantime, I walked my kid to the house and put him to bed, and then quickly went outside and took a picture from the street to show how much of the driveway he was taking and that he was also parked on my lawn. I couldn't understand why they would park in my driveway again after I had told them no, and the only thing I could come up with is that since there had been no activity at my house for hours, that my neighbors probably assumed I was in for the night and wouldn't notice the truck in my driveway. This is pure speculation, but it's normal for me to be in for the night, especially after 6 p.m. I don't know if they missed me leaving or just saw me leave but figured I was home, but it really doesn't matter because I told them they couldn't park on my property. It was about 12:30 a.m. when the tow truck arrived, and I half expected my neighbors to come running, but there wasn't any activity from them, and the driver left with the truck without incident. I went in, shot off another email to my HOA along with pictures and an explanation that I had towed the vehicle, and then went to bed. At 6 a.m. this morning I woke up to someone banging loudly and rapidly on my door. I didn't have to look, I knew who it was. I grabbed my phone, hit the video record button. Before I opened the door, I looked through the peephole and saw ND and his son at my door. I opened the door, and following is the conversation. ND very angry and yelling, "Where's the truck?" Me, as calmly as I could state while coughing, "It was towed. You can call such and such company to make arrangements to get it back." ND, "You didn't have the right to tow it. You're going to pay to get it back." Me, "I had every right to tow an unauthorized vehicle on my property. I told you not to park on my property and you did it anyways. It blocked me from getting in my driveway last night. I told you I was going to have it towed after the last time you parked without my permission. And I won't be paying anything to get it back. ND, you stole my truck, you F&B, and I'm calling the police. I'm going to sue you." Me, having enough of this. "Go ahead. In the meantime, I'm sick and I'm going back to bed." I closed the door and stood there for a moment. I looked out the peephole and they were still there. ND started banging and was also ringing my doorbell nonstop. He knocked and rang my doorbell for another 4 minutes before he gave up. I am still recording all of this and I didn't turn off the video. He was gone. I turned and saw my kids standing there. The noise had gotten them up, and I just advised that if they were still feeling ill, to just go back to bed because that was where I was going. Now I will honestly say that I didn't think he would call the police, but he did. It was about a half hour, I really wasn't looking at the clock, that I heard the doorbell ring. I got up and looked through the peephole, and a police officer was there. I opened the door and had the following conversation. "NP, good morning, ma'am. Sorry to bother you, but we had a report from your neighbor. He is stating that you stole his son's truck by having it towed from the street, and we need to talk to you about this issue." Me, "Good morning, officer. My neighbor is only telling you half the story. I had his truck towed this morning from my driveway when I returned home from minor emergency. I couldn't get into my driveway, and I have already told him twice that him and his family can't park on my property. This issue started last week, and I have emails to my HOA, pictures of his truck parked in my driveway this morning, and a video of my neighbor's visit this morning where he called me names and told me he was going to sue me and call the police. I can show you if you would like?" NP, "Yes. So, you are saying that the truck in question was on your property without your permission and that you had it towed?" Me, "Yes. Last Tuesday he asked if I would allow his son to park in my driveway. I told him no, and he got mad at me and flipped me off before leaving. Then Friday evening, when I was leaving, I discovered his son had parked in my driveway and I couldn't leave my garage. I went over and demanded they remove the vehicle, and I told them at that time that I would have the truck towed if they parked on my property again. I came home late this morning and the truck was in my driveway, so I had it towed." NP, "I just want to confirm, you are saying that it wasn't parked on the street but in your driveway? And you have proof of this?" Me, "Yes, sir. If you will give me a minute, I will print off the emails that I sent to the HOA that documents the issues, and I will also show you the picture and video as well." With this, the police officer said that he would wait for me to print everything off. Once I got the emails printed, I then returned to the door, opened my Photos app to the officer to show the truck in my driveway, timestamped. Handed my phone and printed emails to him. After looking at the photo where you could clearly see my house in the background, the truck blocking the entrance, and that it was partially on the lawn, the officer then read the printouts. He handed my phone back to me and asked me to open the video that I had referenced while he went over to the lawn to look. I watched him look at the area and then take a few photos. I could see my neighbor and his whole family standing in their driveway watching me and the NP. NP returned and I handed him back my phone with the video ready, and he watched it. After he finished watching the video, we had the following exchange. "NP, I'm going to need a copy of that photo and video for my file. If I provided you with an email, would you be able to send it to me?" Me, "Yes, sir. No problem. NP, I have enough information for my files to determine that the vehicle was not on public property and was in fact on your property. I've made a note that you did not give permission for the vehicle to be parked on the property. Based on the emails you gave me with dates and time, it appears you did in fact advise your neighbor not to park on your property. Would you like to file a trespassing report for this incident? Me, oh, absolutely. NP, I can see you are not feeling well. You can either file with me now or you can go online. Getting business card out, writing on it, and then handing it to me. Here is my business card with my email address that you need to use to send me your photo and video, and the case hash is on the card as well. Do you want to file with me now? Me, honestly, I'm exhausted and would prefer to file online later. NP, okay. Reference this case hash when you email your evidence and file the online report. Also reference my name in the report. One more thing, I saw in the video where ND stated he was going to sue you for having the truck towed. He can sue you if he wants, and I would advise that you keep all of the evidence you provided me with today along with the case hash I just gave you. Give it a few days and you can request a copy of the report, and you will want to keep that as well. If you decide to file an online report, you will need to keep a copy of that as well. I'm going to go talk to ND now, and sorry to have bothered you. Me, thank you officer. I'm sorry you had to come out. NP, have a good day ma'am. Get some rest. With that, I closed the door and went back to bed. However, I am so mad that I didn't get any sleep. A few hours ago, I sent off my photo, video, and another copy of the HOA emails to the email address the police officer gave me, and then saved all of that information just in case. I also filed a trespassing report online. I then sat down and started typing this story. Not sure where this is going to go, but I'm going to see it through. I know that I'm going to get a lot of pushback from people saying that I should have just knocked on their door and had them move the truck, but I feel that I was right to have the truck towed. I had already told them twice not to park on my property and it didn't stop, so this was the consequence. Update 1. OMG, this thing blew up and I'm just amazed. I had posted this because I was second guessing myself and thought maybe I had let my sickness and anger outweigh my judgment, but your comments have made me feel more secure with the decision I made. I have so many comments that I can't respond to everyone, so I wanted to address a few repeating comments that I saw. Thank you all again for your support, and I will certainly update you when I know anything else. Update 2. Sadly, it didn't go anywhere. I was kind of hoping that he would have a false report charged against him, but the report states that NS told ND that he parked it in the street in front of my house, and that is why ND called the police. The NP had questioned both of them after he spoke to me, and that is when NS said he had lied to his dad and had actually parked in my driveway. I guess they don't believe he did it intentionally, so no charges were filed and the report was closed. I don't believe it, but that's how it goes. The trespassing report I filed has not been closed yet. I was told that if he is convicted that it is just a misdemeanor and he would have to pay a fine, maybe 10 days of jail, and or community service. Also, it would be the son who would be listed as the trespasser, and since he is a minor, I'm not sure where that will go. But, I discovered that if he is convicted then I could use that to have a protective order done. We'll have to follow up later on the trespassing. So, I'm getting a lot of messages asking about the truck and if there has been any retaliation. Yes, the neighbors got the truck back, and no, I don't know how much it cost them to do so, and yes, he is still parking in the street, but he is parking it further down next to the entrance of the road. As far as I can tell, they haven't done anything to my property and they haven't said anything to me since that day, although, I have gotten some pretty nasty glares and looks from them when I see anyone from their family. I was amazed by how many offers I received from all of you to help me get some cameras. This has touched me greatly. I would like to say thank you for the offers, but I am okay. I was able to talk to several of my neighbors, and I found out that my neighbors that are 3 houses from me may have been the reason that he asked to use my property. I discovered that the man who lives in that house tried to leave for work one morning. He leaves at like 4 a.m., and he couldn't get around NS truck. So he bangs on ND's door until ND finally got up and went out and moved his son's vehicle. I don't know the details of the conversation, but I know there were angry words and a veiled threat if NS truck kept being a problem. Other neighbors confirmed they had made complaints to HOA, but HOA wasn't really helping. Apparently, some other people on the block have had other issues besides the truck since he has moved in, and so this family isn't well liked before this whole issue. Word has spread about what happened, and now there is a watch going on. I have told everyone that I would just like for things to die down and have asked that no one instigate or does anything on my behalf. I told a couple of my neighbors about this post, and one of them has a Reddit account, so she said she was going to follow the post. And no, I'm not going to post a photo or video because I don't want to risk starting anything. If there is a chance that I can go back to my peaceful existence, then that is what I want to do. If you need that information to prove this story is true, then you are free to not believe it. Also, I wasn't clear when I was talking about emailing my HOA. My HOA didn't do anything but log the complaints I was making and tell me that my property is mine and that they can't do anything about what they consider a civil matter. The reason my emails to the HOA were so important was because they contained date/time of the information, and that matched what I had told the officer. My HOA really isn't very good. In addition, some of my neighbors have cameras. I spoke to the lady across the street and her cameras weren't very helpful. They are at an angle and zoomed in on a bird bath in her yard. I guess she likes to watch them, and wasn't meant for security. However, the neighbor beside her went out and adjusted his cameras. He has a lot of them, and was able to cover most of my front yard and part of the side that faces him without sacrificing coverage of his property. It doesn't get my whole yard, but he was able to get the driveway. So anything going forward should be caught. I still plan to save up for some of my own, but now it isn't such a big priority. And the retired man down the street knocked on my door yesterday and gave me his phone number. Told me if I got a visit from anyone from that house again to call him and he would come take care of it. And that he would make sure to keep an eye out. Update 3. I've been waiting for the court date to be over before updating, and for some reason it got postponed twice before finally getting settled yesterday. I'm going to try and make this a short update, but no promises, lol. While waiting for things to progress, I discovered from the neighbor across the street that NS had been caught parking in one of the neighbors down the street's house, and I was able to get a notarized statement from that neighbor about the incident and was able to include it as supporting documents on my report. Sadly, I was disappointed with the outcome at court because it ended up that he got a fine of $150 and that was it. Judge did stress that he can't just park where he wants and to be kind to his neighbors. I would also like to add that I personally haven't been bothered by that family, other than dirty looks when we're both out at the same time. Furthermore, I found out that he and his family either found this post or was told about this post and are very angry about it and have mentioned that I am slandering him and that I lied, but he hasn't said anything directly to me. I also have been able to save up for a camera system, and my ex-husband came over and installed them on my house, and he made a very big show of doing it, so I now have eyes on my property when I'm not looking. There are two good things that have happened. The first is that, after NS was caught parking in the other neighbor's driveway, the family started playing musical cars with all their vehicles. They had been constantly moving cars in and out of the driveway in order to accommodate that huge truck, and it has been watched with delight from the entire street. I think it finally broke ND because about 2 weeks ago, they got rid of NS truck and replaced it with a much smaller truck that can easily be parked in the street. So I feel like this is some kind of victory in itself. But the best thing that has come of this whole thing has been the older man down the street. He's the one that I mentioned in my last update that he gave me his phone number and told me to call him if I had any issues. I never called him, but I came home one day and I noticed that my yard had been mowed, weeded, is that the correct word? And edged. I've never seen my yard look this good. I certainly don't have the skills to do that. I was shocked, and I was thinking that maybe my ex-husband had taken pity on me and did it, even though I knew that was far-fetched. I had to beg him, for weeks, to do the cameras. Before I could get settled in, someone knocked on my door, and when I answered the door, it was the older man. He said he had seen me out pushing the lawnmower around and lugging around a weed eater that was bigger than me, and since he had a riding mower, he decided he would save me some trouble and mowed my yard. I thanked him profusely and tried to pay him, and he declined the money and told me he liked doing yard work and he didn't mind helping me out. So I took him over some chicken spaghetti that night, and he tried to refuse the meal, and I told him I enjoyed cooking, I don't really, and that I wanted to show him my appreciation. This man is a widower and doesn't have family in the States, so he's mowed my yard regularly until it turned cold, and I take him over meals at least 3 times a week, and he has even come over for dinner a few times. I've talked to him in some form almost every day. I had a leaky sink and he fixed it over my protests. I lost my grandfather several years back and I have missed him greatly, and this man reminds me of my grandfather. He tells my boys stories of his time in the military, about his kids and late wife, and gives them advice. He regularly used ND and his family as a not what to do, and he has become almost like my second grandpa. Thanksgiving is just going to be me and my boys this year, and so I invited him over for Thanksgiving, and after much begging and persuading, he has agreed. I'm going to invite him for Christmas as well, and I have socked away some extra money, and we are going to make sure that he has a present under our tree this year. I guess I should go thank ND and his family, cause their entitlement made it possible for us to have some family for the holidays. Story 4. Caught my son stealing his sister's inheritance to propose to his girlfriend, and now he can't find support from anyone. I, 46 male, have a son Jake, 23 male. Jake was a good kid growing up. So him doing this was a complete shock to me. I have a daughter too, Amber, 16F, also fake name. When my wife passed away from COVID nearly 2 years ago, she already had a will in place. She was immunocompromised due to a prior condition she was diagnosed with a decade before she passed. She made sure she had a will set just in case anything happened to her. In said will, she divided her assets between our children. And Jake got his cut as he was already 21. He used that money to put a down payment on a condo, and he also got his mother's car. But the will stated that my daughter was to get all of my wife's jewelry. That included a vintage gold ring with a diamond that had a light blue sapphire on each side of it. That ring has been passed down for generations in my wife's family. It was originally her grandmother's wedding band. Her husband was a jeweler and handcrafted the ring for her himself. It was passed down to my wife's mother when her grandmother died, and then to my wife herself when her mother passed. It, along with the other jewelry, was to all go to my daughter. When my wife passed away, my grief was intense. But I powered through it for the sake of my family, and they supported me 100%. So the betrayal from my son was just a rusty knife in the back to me. For the past 8 months Jake has been dating Sarah, fake name. She has my son wrapped around her finger. She loves jewelry as she adorns herself with it a lot. My son mentioned the family jewels my wife left his sister to Sarah one day, and Sarah really wanted to see them. So Jake went into my room when no one was home and showed them to her. He later admitted to me that he'd done this, and I was angry, but I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Jake came to me a week ago and begged for that ring from his mother's family jewels so that he could propose with it. He said Sarah had fallen in love with the ring when she saw it before, and he just knew it'd be the perfect ring to ask her to marry him with. He seemed completely convinced I'd be jumping for joy for him wanting to propose. But instead, I told him that I was not the one to ask as the ring belongs to Amber, and I wouldn't have him pressuring her to give it up at either. For a fair chance, I'd allow him to explain his reasons and ask her for it once. But only once. Without pressuring her. And if she refuses for any reason, that will be the end of it. Jake agreed and asked Amber for the ring right in front of me. But she told him no because she wanted to keep it in the family jewels, and has always loved that ring. To her, it's priceless. She couldn't bear to ever give it up. I told Jake that was that, and to not press the matter further. Jake left looking very unhappy about not getting the ring. But I thought he'd let it go and look into finding a similar one. But he came back another day while I was at work to talk to his sister after she got home from school. He and Amber got into a huge fight about the ring and Amber called me crying. I called Jake and told him to get out of my house and leave his sister alone. Jake yelled at me that he should have just as much right to the ring as his sister, because my wife was his mother too. But I reminded him he got a lot of his mother's money, and her car. The jewelry is Amber's, and only hers. He hung up on me and Amber soon texted me that he left very angry. Later, right before I left work, my daughter called and told me that Jake came back. He walked in dressed in a suit, went into my room and took something. Then left without saying anything to Amber. She tried to keep him from leaving, but he shoved her out of the way. I rushed home as soon as my shift was over and checked my wife's jewelry box. The ring was gone. I immediately called Jake, but he didn't answer. So I messaged him that I'll get police involved if he doesn't return the ring. Using it to propose won't stop me from taking it back. That finally made him talk to me, and he tried to say that I couldn't do that to him because he's my son. I said I can and will because he outright stole the ring. He'd better bring it back right away, or I would take drastic measures. Well, he phoned me right after that, and in a whisper he said that it was too late. He'd taken his girlfriend out to dinner and proposed to her with the ring. He hadn't had it for more than an hour by this point. Yet the ring was already on her finger. I said that was his problem. He stole the ring, he can bring it back, it's not his, and I will do whatever it takes to make sure it's returned. And if that means going to police and blowing the whole situation up, then so be it. I'll file a report, I'll even get a lawyer. Jake started crying and saying I couldn't do this to him. I told him tough luck. He stole from both his sister and dead mother. I would not back down until the ring was returned. Jake wouldn't stop crying and making excuses, so I told him to have the ring back by morning, or I would be moving forward with legal action. Jake is my son, but he still broke the law. I couldn't overlook what he did. He said he'd be by in the morning to talk, and ended the call while crying even more. Well, Jake did show up in the morning, and brought his girlfriend with him to try and guilt us. Turns out she not only knew he stole the ring, she wanted to keep it anyway because she was completely in love with the ring since she first laid eyes on it. I told her I didn't care. She could have a jeweler make a copy of it or something. But the original doesn't belong to her, it belongs to my daughter and deceased wife. Jake begged me one more time not to make her give it back, but I and my daughter stood firm. Return the ring or face the police and maybe even a potential lawsuit. Jake's girlfriend pulled the ring off her finger and dropped it in my daughter's hands, called me an evil bastard, then left my house in tears. Jake started screaming at me that I may have just destroyed his relationship. I retorted him that he did this to his own relationship by stealing a ring that didn't belong to him. What kind of son steals from his own sister and dead mother? That is beyond terrible. Jake had nothing more to say to me and walked out to follow after his girlfriend. I didn't get anyone else involved in the situation, but Jake did. He tried getting support from friends and family, but he got the exact opposite reaction he'd hoped for. They were all mad at him over what he'd done. I got many phone calls and messages from people offering me condolences and saying they were not on Jake's side. I tried to do damage control, but now everybody knows. It's been a week now, and Jake's refused to speak to me. I've sent him detailed pictures of the ring, just in case he wanted a jeweler to replicate it, but making a copy would be very expensive unless he used fake stones. Thus far there has been no response. I don't know what the situation is with his girlfriend. If she even still is his girlfriend after what happened. But I still stand by the fact that Jake had to return the ring. I have since had all my wife's jewelry placed in a safety deposit box that only I have access to. The jewelry will remain there until my daughter is 21. It may even stay there if she wants to keep it safe that way. I know I'm in the right to have reclaimed the ring. However, I don't want my son to hate me and I don't want the family to hate him. If anyone has any advice as to how to better mediate this situation without me giving away the ring or spending a lot of money, I'm all ears. Update 1. Well, my son's girlfriend Sarah has officially broken up with him. He's devastated and blaming me. Some previously pointed out that I gave him too much credit in saying he was a good kid. He used to be, but the person he is now, I just do not recognize. Whether he was always like this deep down, or if he just fell for the wrong person and let her change him for the worse is a mystery to me. But it doesn't justify what he did. After I forced him and Sarah to return the stolen ring, she apparently spent days crying in bed, then told Jake that she didn't want a different ring no matter how much he told her he'd get her another one. She wanted my deceased wife's ring. She couldn't imagine possibly having a different one for their engagement now that it had already been on her hand, even though it was only for a few hours and stolen. The last time I met someone who cried that much about being made to return stolen property, they were 4 years old. I heard more than one person say they thought Sarah was being a big baby about it. The situation was no secret because Jake spilled the beans looking for support to the whole family and his/Sarah's friends. As previous readers know, that backfired badly for them. Well, after Jake's failed gambit for support, all the local drama lovers latched onto the situation like barnacles to a boat. They kept messaging me with more information, even though I wasn't asking. So I was being kept in the loop even though Jake and Sarah weren't talking to me. My son had the pictures I sent him so that he could try and replicate the ring, and he took them to a jeweler. The jeweler said he could make a similar ring based on the pictures. But he'd want to closely examine the original and take proper measurements to make an evaluation of the stones and metal in order to see what it'd take to make as close of a copy as possible. Jake waited for a while before swallowing his pride to call me again. His girlfriend was finally at least entertaining the idea of making a copy. But she wanted it to be an exact copy, down to the smallest detail. They called me a couple days after I made my original post and asked me to bring the ring to a jeweler to get a proper quote on the cost of making a duplicate. I agreed to take an extended lunch break and meet at the local jeweler. I got the ring from the safety deposit box and guarded it closely. I could see Sarah's eyes light up with greed the moment she saw it again. She reached her hand out and asked to wear it just one more time, then pouted like a child when I told her no. For all I knew, she'd take off running the second she had it. The jeweler looked at the ring very closely for a little while, and said it was worth more than we thought and to copy it would cost a lot. The ring was decades old, and expertly crafted by my wife's grandfather sometime in the 1940s. The jeweler singed its praises even. The diamond and sapphires were decently large for an engagement ring, and the ring itself didn't use a slim gold band, but a pretty thick and heavy one made of what was estimated to be 18-karat gold. But there was more. The stones themselves were set in platinum, and the ring had many ornate floral carvings on it. The stones alone needed to make an identical ring were more than Jake's current budget. Not including antique value, making a copy of a ring like that with that variety of materials would cost a lot in time and labor because every part of it would have to be handcrafted. It was 5 times what Jake had saved. The best he could have done would be to make a down payment and then spend years in debt. Sarah enthusiastically wanted Jake to have the ring made anyway, but the cost was just too much. So the jeweler suggested they have one made that just looks the same. It didn't need to be made of the exact same materials. They could use a center stone that just looked similar to diamond, and replace the platinum with a similar metal I can't remember the name of. It would have reduced cost by a lot. There was also a suggestion of looking for a modern ring that looks similar that's already made, which would be far cheaper as well. In fact, the jeweler already had 3 rings set aside that all looked somewhat similar with a central diamond and sapphires, all very reasonably priced. Jake was all for either idea when Sarah suddenly slapped him while calling him a cheap broke-ass wannabe, then turned on her heel to me and called me an evil bastard again for taking the original ring back because it had already been given to her when Jake proposed, and should still be hers regardless. Then she held up her hand in the manner one does when they expect you to put a ring on their finger, and outright demanded the ring back while saying it was her right to wear it, and that my daughter wouldn't need it because it'd go to waste with her. She actually said it's not like my daughter would be doing the proposing to anyone since a man could just get a different ring for her someday. Oh boy, did that make me angry. She clearly noticed because she took a couple of steps back. I looked her dead in the eye and said that my wife's family ring will never be hers. It wasn't Jake's to give away and he knew it. That's why he went out of his way to steal it while I wasn't home, because he hoped I wouldn't demand it back if he used it. But neither he nor she ever had a right to it. Then I said that it's entitled people like her that are what's wrong with the world now. She acts like whatever she wants should be handed to her, and she's lusted after my wife's ring ever since Jake first showed it to her. That whole speech was a bit long-winded with some conjecture, I know, but I just couldn't hold myself back verbally anymore. My wife used to tell me that if I wanted to insult someone, I always figured out exactly what to say. After I said all of that to Sarah's face, she aimed to slap me too, but I guess the look in my eyes was enough to make her turn away and storm out instead while very loudly making some sort of unintelligible tantrum noises that hurt my ears. She even intentionally knocked down a counter display on her way out. Jake was glaring at me with absolute rage, but didn't say anything until I asked him why he was with this awful woman. He just said that he loved her and followed after. To his credit, she is very beautiful, but it's really just skin deep. Sarah wouldn't talk to Jake for a while, and then a few days later told him they were through because she felt like he didn't value her enough to get her the ring she deserved, and that she couldn't imagine having a miser like me as a father-in-law. She said she felt thoroughly humiliated by me and cried that people all think she's a gold digger now. But I don't think they are wrong. I mean, she slapped my son just for suggesting they make a cheaper version of an expensive ring he could not afford, then threw a massive tantrum just because I wouldn't hand over the original when she demanded it. That's the behavior of a gold digger if I've ever seen any. And while it is an assumption on my part, exactly how long would Sarah have stayed with my son if someone rich came along and swept her off her feet? Would she have been inclined to still stand by him? Something tells me not so. I honestly feel like she just wanted the ring and nothing else. Right after the incident with the breakup, Jake did try to get in my house again while I wasn't home. To do what I have no idea. But if I were to speculate, he may have been after the cash in my gun safe, or thought the family jewels were still in the house. I hadn't told him at that point that I'd had them stored away in a deposit box. I really didn't want to think my own son would break in for either of those reasons. But he stole from us once, he could do it again. Someone here suggested I replace the locks on my house, and I did. So Jake's key would no longer work. I'm looking into getting cameras put in now too. My daughter Amber called me after Jake showed up and said she was terrified while he was banging on the front door and demanding to be let in. I called his cell and he didn't pick up, but I guess it spooked him because Amber said he left right after his phone started ringing. He has a set ringtone for me, so he knew it was me calling in an instant. Jake called later that evening, but before he could start yelling at me, I demanded to know what the hell he was doing trying to break into my house while I wasn't home earlier. He scared his sister and she nearly called police. Jake dodged the question by being angry about me changing the locks because I don't trust him. I said, damn right I don't trust him. Not after what he did. Jake fired back that I couldn't just be happy for him and that if his mom was still alive, she'd have wanted him to use the ring to propose. I saw red and said that if she wanted that, she'd have willed it to him. So he began whining and saying it was all my fault. He explained exactly what Sarah said when she broke up with him, and how she called me a miser, among other things, then ranted about how I always thought Sarah was never good enough for him. I pointed out he was putting words in my mouth. I never said she wasn't good enough for him. I barely knew Sarah and I never once got in the way of him being with her till he stole the ring. He tried to deny that, but I asked him when I'd ever said anything bad about Sarah prior to the ring incident. He really sounded like he was thinking hard, but even he couldn't remember any actual time because I barely saw this woman ever while they were dating. I wasn't even aware they were dating till at least 3 months had gone by in their relationship. But that was all beside the point. What the hell was he trying to get into my house for this time? He refused to answer. So I answered for him. I said if he was after the ring, or any of the other family jewels. They'd been moved to a secure safe location only I have access to. If he was trying to break into my safe for my emergency cash fund, there's no way he'd get it open. If he was there to do any sort of harm to his sister, I'd kick his ass myself. I may have hit the nail in the head with at least one of those things, because Jake just had a long silent pause on the line. Then he told me he's made up his mind to put in for a transfer at his job and sell his condo. He wants to move as far away as possible and never speak to me again. His last words to me were to have a nice life with my favorite child. I don't understand how my son has so completely changed on this level in just a year. I never actually called Sarah a manipulative gold digger until recently. I said she had my son wrapped around her finger and she loves jewelry. Though I guess that's not all that different in the long run. But in truth she is a manipulative gold digger. Especially after the drama act she put on to try and keep a ring that was never hers. I mean, she spent days in bed crying over a ring she knew was stolen and then had her huge tantrum at not being able to get it back or copy it. Now because of her, my son has chosen to wash his hands of me and his sister altogether. I am devastated. But at the same time furious that my son would do such things just to appease this witch of a woman he'd only been dating 8 months. That's not enough time dating before proposing. I dated my wife for over 2 years before popping the question. I shudder to think what things would have been like if that witch had married my son. I know Jake is going to blame me for a long time and I'm not sure if we'll ever speak again. I hope one day we can reconcile, but for now I think we need time apart. Amber is also very upset. She's extremely thankful I got the ring back for her, but she's just as shocked as I was that Jake has become like he is now. She's referring to him as a brute for how he shoved her aside when he stole the ring, and also calling him a simp. Whatever that means. Thankfully she has a great support system with me and the rest of the family. Something I know Jake doesn't have right now. Multiple family members have called or messaged him to tell him off. His now former best friend even came to me to apologize. He and Jake got in a nasty fight over what he'd done. When his own best friend since elementary school didn't see things from his side, Jake cut him off too. Jake's ex-girlfriend Sarah also got in trouble with her own family. Her parents contacted me to ask for my side of the story and then apologized for their daughter's behavior. They only knew a small bit of what happened, but were appalled to hear about the way she'd acted. Like Jake, they said she used to be a much kinder person, but in the past few years she's changed so much. They are severely disappointed in her. They were also covering half of the rent to her current apartment, and are now telling her that when her lease is over, they will not be renewing it with her. She can either pay the full rent herself, or look for somewhere else to live. Now she's going around cursing my name and saying this is all my fault. What is it with people these days? It's like ever since all those memes about entitled people on the internet have exploded, it just made more people like them. When I was Jake's age, I only saw people like that on rare occasions. Now they're everywhere. I've seen 2 in the local supermarket this year even. They're spreading their toxicity like a flood on the world. I can only hope one day my son comes to his senses and finds happiness again. Whether or not he chooses to speak with me ever again, I'll hold out hope he'll one day return to being the kind person he once was. Update 2. I'll start this off by asking that people please stop messaging me for pictures of the ring. I've gotten many asking me to see it for various reasons. Some even because they want a similar ring made as well. Well, I made my daughter aware of this Reddit account, and she's proud of me for doing it, but she doesn't want pictures of the ring online. That's her decision to make because the ring is hers. I don't need to question her as to why. I just need to respect her decision. I also don't like the idea of posting pictures of it because if it gets copied by total strangers, then it'd no longer be unique. I was willing to let my son copy the ring because it was a family matter, but I won't be posting it for everyone to see and replicate as they please. I've already long deleted the pictures of the ring I sent Jake, and the ring is locked away in a bank vault right now. It will not remain there permanently as I intend to get a better home safe to keep it in when I can afford it. In the past few weeks since my original post, I did have cameras installed, and I'm thankful I did. For those wondering if my son and Sarah would get back together, no, they did not. My son is apparently really selling his condo. He's not spoken to me since our last phone conversation where he told me to have a nice life with my favorite child after not getting his way. I have been to see my lawyer about my estate, and got my will altered. I haven't written my son out, but he's lost a lot of the things he would have otherwise inherited for the time being. After having some time to think, I've realized I just can't feel remorse for Jake anymore after his actions as of late. My daughter Amber calling him a simp seems to be an apt description, once I found out what that meant. But I just don't want to be angry or sad about it anymore. Neither emotion is doing me any good, so for now I'm just going to do my best to let it go and move on. Jake seems to plan on moving on without us anyway. Hopefully in time he'll understand what he did wrong, but I can't change his mind for him. I did run into my son's ex Sarah at a random place in town. She spotted me while I was with one of my friends in the middle of the local shopping mall. She called out to me while we were in front of a bunch of people and started booing me and calling me a greedy miser. I didn't really have to say anything to her because my friend laughed at her and called her a thief and a gold-digging bitch who just wanted my dead wife's ring because she couldn't have it. I saw half the crowd turn to look at her at once when he said that. Sarah flipped us off and stormed away while cursing my name and knocking over anything in her path. This included a small child, whom started crying in an instant. When she realized she'd hurt the kid, Sarah took off running. My friend and I helped the very pregnant mother of the child in calming the kid down, and thankfully the kid was okay. Sarah showed up at my house later to yell that it's all my fault. Her friends are all saying she's a gold digger now, and won't hang out with her anymore. I said she is a gold digger because of what she did. She never had a right to my wife's ring, and she cried for days about it like a child, then broke up with my son just because he couldn't afford what she wanted. That's all something a gold digger would do. I'm not at fault just because she wanted my dead wife's ring so bad. And I'll make damn sure she never sees it again. What came next was more unintelligible screaming from her as she stomped back to her car. I'd hoped that was the end of it, but that girl just wouldn't leave well enough alone. For those thinking Sarah and Jake's personality shifts were due to drugs, I'm not sure whether or not to tell you I'm sorry that isn't the case. It was all them. Which in Jake's case is a harder pill to swallow because it means he has no excuse for such a radical shift in behavior. Sarah was arrested last week for attempting to break into my house. The cameras I had installed caught her sneaking into my backyard and trying to break in. She tried to break open my back door with an axe and that tripped the alarm I had installed. She ran off, but the cameras in front of the house caught video of both her and her car very clearly in my driveway. She also left the axe with her fingerprints on it on the ground before she ran. When police got there, she was long gone, but they later found her at her apartment. They initially just wanted to arrest her for breaking my door and trespassing, but she went crazy on them and wound up getting pinned to the ground and frog marched out. This woman definitely has something mentally wrong with her. A few days after Sarah was arrested, I spoke to her parents again. They offered to pay for the broken door and then filled me in on some of the details. It seems drugs were not involved. They told me she was given drug tests at the station and her system came back clean. Since she wasn't on drugs, I don't think Jake was either, but Sarah was found to be very mentally unwell. So I guess it was just her crazy that was contagious. Her parents promised me that I'll never have to deal with her again as they plan to move her out of town once they've dealt with the legalities of her situation. They haven't contacted me again since. But I wouldn't say it's my business that they do either. I'm guessing though that Sarah likely needs major mental health treatment. So in a sense I do feel a little sorry for her now. I knew Jake had to be aware of what happened with Sarah since everyone was talking about it, but he has not reached out to any friends or family. One of the people he works with has contacted me though, and told me Jake is still openly very angry about what happened. He still believes the ring would have been a small price to pay for his happiness. Now that Sarah has been taken away, Jake has also shifted blame onto her, saying she's the crazy gold-digging woman who ruined his life. It seems all he can do is blame, and blame other people some more. Until he accepts fault in his own actions, then I don't think we can have a relationship. He's not going to do well in life if he can't take responsibility for his own actions. I just hope that some time alone wherever he chooses to go will help him to mellow out and understand where he went wrong. This is likely to be my last update here, unless something else goes wrong. And if no new posts show up in the coming months or years, then you'll all know everything is fine. At least as much as it can be, considering the situation. Update 3. I did not expect to make another post on this account ever again, let alone one so soon after what was supposed to be my final update. But I was recently messaged by someone on social media using a burner account that said they had some extra details on Jake and Sarah that I didn't know. They wouldn't say who they are, other than the fact that they were someone close to Sarah. I was just hoping to put a bookend to this situation, and then here comes someone anonymous playing the deep throat informant. So I can't confirm or deny any of this information I got from them. From what they told me, apparently Sarah's parents are loaded. Well, the person stated my son Jake was only still with Sarah despite her being abusive and crazy because her parents are wealthy. Meaning, he was also acting like a gold digger. They said that he needed as impressive of a ring as possible to woo Sarah with. I'm not sure I want to believe it, but it feels like it makes sense on some level. If Jake wanted to marry into wealth, then a lot of his behavior as of late really seems to fit the situation now. I can't say if all of what was said is actually true, but if it is, it would mean that my son never really loved Sarah, and it was all about money. Sigh. Isn't it always these days? But in the end, I'm not sure it would have panned out the way Jake wanted. The person who messaged me said that Sarah was the black sheep of her family, a spoiled brat with endless demands, which is why her parents sent her to live out here to work a job and have a taste of real life. She was apparently extremely pissed off at them for not bankrolling her life anymore. The person messaging me said that Sarah figured that if she got married, her parents would accept her back, but she had such a high maintenance standard for potential partners that she couldn't hold one for long. Jake was the last in a line of several. She only started dating Jake because he had his own condo, so it was kind of a two-way gold digger situation with Jake hoping to make bank by marrying her, and her hoping to get married so she could get back into her parents' pockets. I have a hard time wrapping my head around this. All of that kind of calls into question Sarah's parents saying she was once a good kid. Maybe she was, and then went crazy in her teens or something. I don't know. This could just be someone yanking my chain for fun, or it's possibly the whole reason my son tried to rush into marrying Sarah. Either way, it's left me with more questions about my son than ever, but he isn't here to answer them anymore. So I'm just distraught about the whole situation. My daughter Amber said that she believes what this person told me and that Jake has acted like he wanted to be rich ever since he inherited money from his mother after she passed. I think I'm going to need another day of retro gaming on my PC and some tubs of ice cream. Amber said cherry ice cream would be more fitting than vanilla this time. Not sure if that's some other modern reference I don't understand, but I think I just need a mental break. I'd like to take a vacation to the coast. I don't have the time right now, maybe in the spring. I am beyond seriously hoping this is the last update I have to post. I just want to be done with this situation. I'm going to be having Christmas without my son for the first time in over 20 years. It's even sadder that my wife is gone too, just me and my daughter now. At least my wife's extended family are very supportive and we'll be seeing them soon on Christmas Eve. Story 5. Confronted my coworker about excluding me from his wedding. He lied saying I was sick. Now everyone knows the truth. I've been working for my company for 7 years now, 5 of which have been spent on my current team. There are 15 people on it and I'd say we're all pretty close, relatively speaking. I have a coworker named Bob, 33 male, who joined the team when I did. During the pandemic he announced to everyone on a Zoom meeting that he was now engaged. Fast forward to this January and Bob says that his wedding would be held in September of this year at a really beautiful winery. About 5 months ago the invites started coming in for everyone on the team, but mine didn't. I waited a few weeks but nothing came, so I went to Bob and asked if my invite got sent out. He gave me a solemn look and then told me that I wasn't invited because of a spacing issue. He said he tried to make it work, but just couldn't, and hoped I didn't take it personally. He also said I'd be sure to get wedding favors and a piece of cake. He also asked me to keep it to myself and please not make a big deal out of it. I honestly didn't know what to say, so I guess I just said okay and walked away. I won't lie, I was upset. I hate feeling excluded, and it was doubly worse because everyone else on the team was going except for me, and honestly, I really like weddings, they're usually very fun. I kept it to myself, but I wasn't happy. The day of the wedding came 3 weeks ago. And it went by without a hitch. Everyone on my team had a grand time and said it was beautiful. The food and party was great as well, and apparently everyone got a dozen fresh apple cider donuts to take home. I never did get that cake or wedding favors BTW. At work the following Monday my team member, Sherry, told me that everyone was confused as to where I was. Apparently Bob said I was sick and couldn't make it. I was confused and then pissed. I straight up told her I wasn't invited, and left it at that. She looked shocked, and asked me to confirm and I said yes, I wasn't invited. Well, Sherry told someone, because about 5 people asked me if I wasn't invited and I said it was true. Today was Bob's first day back from his honeymoon and it must have gotten back to him that I spilled the beans. He approached me in the break room and he was upset that I told Sherry and that it wasn't a big deal I missed the wedding. I said, how would you like to be excluded from something everyone else is going to? We went back and forth for a bit, before Bob walked away. I was pretty upset, so upset that my project manager came to ask me if I was okay because she heard about me not being invited. I didn't want this to go this far, so I said yes. But other team members came up to me and said that Bob should have invited me, and it was wrong he didn't. Look, I realized that it was his wedding day and he's allowed to invite who he wants, but I'm allowed to be upset that I wasn't invited, right? Update 1. Bob and I were in the office today. He came to me and asked if we could talk. He asked if we could clear the air over some beers with his wife after work. I said okay. After work I meet Bob and his wife Pam in a bar. They both apologized for not inviting me, and making me feel excluded. Bob apologized for lying and getting mad about it. The reason they didn't invite me is because they didn't want single guys at the wedding. They went to a big wedding back in 2019 that was ruined when a bunch of drunk, single guys started hitting on the women there. A few of the boyfriends and husbands got pissed and it turned into a big fight. People were arrested and it completely ruined the wedding. I found it hard to believe, but they showed me a couple of Facebook videos of them at a wedding, and it looked the damn Royal Rumble going on. I was even shown a few Facebook statuses confirming their story. Pam said she was sort of traumatized by this and swore they'd have no single guys at their wedding. Well, the wedding came and Pam stuck to her guns. Only family, couples, single women or trusted single men were to be invited. Pam said that there were only about 10 single guys there, and they were all family members or groomsmen. She said the party turned out amazing this way since women didn't have to worry about being hit on. Pam said it truly wasn't personal, and that she's so sorry for not inviting me, but would do it again. I asked if she and Bob didn't trust me enough to control myself. She said that Bob vouched hard for me, but she was sticking to her guns. The compromise was that she'd have to explain it if anyone asked, and that Bob got to choose the honeymoon destination. Curiously, she said that she had a sister around my age and I was just her type and she wanted to keep her away from me. I was a little offended at that, but she says that it's for my own good. Her sister is a little bit of SLT, her words not mine, and she didn't want her to get her hooks in me, again her words. Bob said he should have handled it better, and he wanted to be honest, but it wouldn't have made much of a difference, so he hoped I wouldn't mind as much. Plus he figured I wouldn't want to go to a wedding as a single guy anyway. I told them I was kinda hurt. They thought I would act like a creeper at their wedding. Pam assured me that she thought I was a nice, smart, funny guy, but she just wanted to make sure their wedding went off without a hitch. They promised to make it up to me, but I told them it wasn't necessary. Pam insisted on it, and said I had to know how sorry she was. So we made plans to have dinner at their expense at a very nice restaurant in the city this weekend. So in the end I guess it wasn't anything I did, but I still feel kind of insulted. But I guess I get a free dinner out of it. Edit. There are a lot of comments here suggesting that I'm being naive, a doormat, and letting them off easy for basically calling me a creep. I won't lie, I think you all might be right. I do believe in taking the high road on most occasions, but I don't think this should be one of those times. As a side note, I don't believe that wanting to see the best in people or taking them at their word makes you naive. I had a call an hour ago with my project manager and explained the entire situation. She advised me to go to HR and make a complaint since it could lead to a hostile work environment. I have a meeting with them Monday. I don't really want to make a formal complaint, just have it on file in case anything happens. TBH, I don't think it will. Bob doesn't seem like that kind of person, but I've been wrong plenty of times before. So as per the advice here, I won't be going to dinner with Bob and Pam. I will however insist on a public apology that doesn't imply that I'm a creep. And I'm insisting on some fresh apple cider donuts, not store-bought, but fresh. Update 2. Honestly, this whole thing is stupid as hell and I really just want to move on and forget this whole thing happened. But reality is often disappointing. But first, to clarify a few things. 1. I had to omit a lot of information because of character count in our /a myth asshole. 2. I got a few posts and DMs asking why I felt entitled to be invited. I want to make it clear. I don't feel entitled to anything. Yes, I wanted to be invited, but as I said, if they had been honest with me from the beginning I wouldn't have minded as much. They were allowed to do what they wanted on their wedding day. My problem was the subterfuge used to mask their choice. 3. I'm usually not this indecisive, but this is a weird situation and I don't exactly know how to handle it. 4. I have never talked to Bob about women, ever. We didn't have that kind of relationship, none of the men on the team do. I think the women do it among themselves, but I can't be sure about it. 5. I'm choosing to believe Pam about her experience dealing with men. If recent years have shown us anything, is that we need to believe women when they say they've been harassed or assaulted. 6. The trusted men were made up of family members and groomsmen who were explicitly told not to flirt with the women. Pam had to turn away some of her single guy friends, and Bob had a shit ton of guy friends who wanted to go, but were turned away. 7. Bob and Pam's after party was going for a club vibe. Pam and some of her friends had very bad experiences being hit on at clubs and Pam wanted to ensure their safety. She got the idea to exclude guys from going to women-only clubs. According to her, the vibe was so much better when women could get drunk and shake their asses and not be taken harassed by thirsty guys. The women at the wedding appreciated the lack of guys on the dance floor, but some complained about the lack of guys at the wedding. 8. The wedding Royal Rumble happened at the wedding of one of her closest friends. The friend and her husband were devastated their wedding was ruined. It was so bad that they committed to having a 5-year vow renewal. Also, they were stuck with a large cleanup bill from the venue for damages. 9. As for me, it was 70-30 on me being invited. It came down to that Pam didn't know me at all outside of my superb Super Mario Maker level design. Bob really fought hard for me, but Pam was too unsure, and then she remembered her sister. 10. According to Pam, although she loves her sister to death, her sister is a huge SL/T and goes from guy to guy with the change of the wind. Apparently I'm dangerously her type and she would have been all over me. I asked what was wrong with that. She said her sister doesn't deserve a sweet guy like me and she didn't want her to get her hooks in me. This sealed my fate. 11. Bob said it would look horrible if I wasn't invited. That's when she came up with the compromise of taking the heat for it. He was just hoping that I wouldn't mind not going. 12. Maybe I'm naive, but I'm choosing to believe Bob about feeling horrible about not inviting me. He seemed really broken up about it. Either he's a damn good actor or he's telling the truth. 13. He acknowledged that the way he handled it was terrible. According to him, there was no way of doing this that wasn't awkward. As for why he lied? Apparently he panicked and couldn't think of anything better. Him getting mad at me for not going along with it wasn't necessarily about me, but being mad at Pam for putting him in that situation. 14. He promised to make a full apology in front of the team when we're all together in the office again in a few weeks. 15. Pam did say that she felt terrible about me and the other guys she had to exclude, but she would do it again to ensure the safety of the women around her. 16. She was extremely insistent on making it up to me. She said that we should be friends going forward and offered a nice home-cooked meal to me followed by some wine and a round of Mario Kart. I turned that down. That's when the expensive restaurant solution was offered. 17. I accepted because it seemed like a fair compromise at the time. They didn't even have to really apologize for it, but they were offering me dinner so I took it. In hindsight I shouldn't have, but at that point I just wanted to get out of there and go home. Now for the update. After reading the comments calling me a doormat, I decided not to accept their dinner offer. I called Bob on his work phone to explain my change of heart. He was disappointed, but understood my reasoning. I parroted some of the talking points and he said he understood. He wouldn't make a big deal out of it, and we could just move on. I thanked him for being cool about it, and he hung up. I thought that would be the end of it, but not 5 minutes later Bob calls me back. I groan and pick up. Surprisingly, it was Pam on the other side. She didn't come at me hostile, but she did sound upset. She wanted to know why I didn't want to come anymore. I explained what I told to Bob about how they basically insisted I was a creep. I told her I didn't want to invalidate her experiences, but I didn't have to accept being told I'm a potential sexual predator. She said that she didn't mean it like that, and that she thinks I'm a good person, but couldn't risk it for her wedding. She was practically begging me to meet her in person to clear the air further. She kept on saying that we could be the best of friends if I'd give her a chance to explain better. I said no thanks, and that I had to go, but I'm sorry that she went through what she went through. I ended the call by saying, BTW, I didn't even get those donuts. I then hung up. It's been quiet since then, but Bob is back in the office on Monday and I fear Pam might do something drastic. I hope this thing is over, but I fear it might not be. In any case, I'll update if anything happens. Hey everyone. So, as I mentioned in my last update, I reached out to Bob and explained that I wouldn't be taking him and Pam up on their weekend dinner offer. He was disappointed but agreed with me. Pam called me back a few minutes later and fought hard to keep the plans. I declined and left it at that, hoping that would be the end of it. It wasn't. And now, this silly drama continues. I went in 2 hours early on Monday so that I could potentially avoid a Bob after work chat. Surprisingly, Bob came in an hour early, lining him up to potentially leave with me. Bob looked exhausted. And I don't mean tired, I mean mentally. I've seen Bob tired. We've worked many late nights on projects together. I've seen him hungover. This wasn't any of that. I almost can't describe it. He looked worn down. He shot me a sup nod, and I gave him one back, and we got to work. I kept my meeting with HR. Our HR rep is a wonderful lady named Sally. I told Sally the whole story, and she said that in her 15 years of HR work, she's never heard a more stupid story. We shared a good laugh, and she told me that it would be unofficially logged just in case Bob or Pam did anything crazy. She told me she thinks Bob is harmless, but to keep my eyes sharp. The rest of the day was uneventful. The most interesting thing that happened was that I saw Bob's face buried in his hands for a good minute or so. With 2 hours to go, I go to the break room for some water. Bob follows me in and approaches cautiously. I gave him a surprised look, and he just threw up his hands as if to say he was not hostile. He said he knows I'm the last person I want to talk to right now, but he needs to talk to me. I said fine, but I angled us over to where the security camera was. Paraphrasing here, but he said, look, I won't ever speak to you again if you don't want me to, but let me buy you around and explain all of the things Pam didn't tell you when we met the other day. Bob sounded desperate, something I'd never seen from him before. He then hit me with the money quote, look man, I could really use a friend right now, and I've always considered you a friend. Well, sorry to disappoint everyone here, but I'm a big gullible softie. I agreed to talk with him, but I told him that there would be absolutely no more meetings on this situation after this. He agreed and said he'd meet me after work. After work, we walked to our usual bar, the same one I met him and Pam the first time. I suspected Pam might be there, but she wasn't. Nevertheless, I kept my eye open for her. Once we sat down, Bob apologized yet again. This one seemed even more genuine than the first. I told him he didn't need to keep apologizing. I got it the first time. He said that he had to apologize because there's a lot more to the story about the wedding than I thought. Bob explained that he fought Pam like hell to get her to give up the single men's exclusion, but she was dead set on it. They argued for months, and a lot of people offered different solutions. Bob suggested a smaller wedding with only immediate family and friends, but Pam shot that down. She always dreamt of a big wedding with lots of people there, and a small wedding didn't fit her dream. Her parents said, "Why not hire a security guard?" Pam said that she wanted the possibility eliminated, completely. She said that a few single men could stand to not be invited to a party for once in their lives. Bob said he had a lot of friends who wanted to come and that they would be hurt if they weren't invited. Pam said she was making sacrifices too. A lot of her guy friends wanted to come. Bob finally relented and said if the exclusion were to happen, he wanted nothing to do with that decision and wanted it known that it was out of his hands. Pam said she'd take the heat for it if it came to that, but didn't think people would go crazy over it. She also gave Bob the choice of their honeymoon destination since he was making a big sacrifice. They went to the French Riviera if anyone is curious. Bob said the wedding, reception, and party were amazing. He said that so many women there were drunk off their assess and falling over themselves. Apparently, they did feel safe, but a drunk vocal minority was complaining about the lack of hot guys to dance with. Bob even laughed because one of them was going around calling it a lesbian wedding since there were only women there. Oh, and some women were absolutely hitting on the handful of single guys there, but Pam didn't mind that as much. Bob said he wasn't rubbing it in, just setting up a point. After the honeymoon, they came home to what Bob described as a PR firestorm. Apparently, Pam had lied to her guy friends about why they weren't invited. One of her close friends let slip the real reason they weren't invited. They were effing furious. She was flooded with angry calls and messages from her friends about Pam essentially calling them potential sexual predators. Pam explained her position multiple times to her friends, but it fell on deaf ears. She has lost many friends over this. One of the guys said, "If you think that I'm a rapist, then why the fuck are we even friends?" Pam has been crying for days, and her work life has become terrible. She might even need to leave her job. By this point, Bob had a few hard drinks and was tipsy, so he let loose a little more. He said that her decision had cost him friends of his own. So many of his guy friends were furious to learn they were excluded, and for the reason why. On the day of the wedding, about 6 or so of his closest friends who were excluded decided to go on a fishing trip as a screw you to Bob and Pam. The cherry on top of the petty cake? They decide to donate $500 and some items to a local woman's shelter. Bob was devastated, and none of those guys are returning his calls or messages. Even their families are upset with them over the exclusion. Pam's parents are publicly supportive, but chastise her behind the scenes. She doesn't have anyone but her bridesmaids and about 3 other friends who believe in her cause. Bob said at one point that Pam was hysterical and screaming, "Why can't anyone just understand my point of view?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but there was more to this crazy story. At this point, we were about an hour in and Bob was nice and tipsy. So, I pried for more information. Bob said that at first, Pam was sticking to her guns that the exclusion was a good idea, but she was starting to waver a little bit. She said that most people understood where she was coming from, but that it was too heavy-handed, and even a little sexist. Bob and Pam have had multiple blow-ups over this whole situation, and they're not in a good place right now. He said that instead of feeling giddy about his new wife and basking in the glow of being married, he's harboring a ton of resentment towards her because she's cost him a lot of his friends and ruined their lives over a stupid party. As for me? Apparently, Pam really likes me. One of her biggest regrets about this entire situation is not getting to know me better before the wedding. He said that Pam thinks I'm one of the coolest people she's ever met. I asked Bob how she made that determination from a 15-minute chat, and he laughed and said, "I don't know, man, she probably has a crush on you or something." I laughed, but that made the situation a little bit weird. As for Pam's sister, she is a SL/T, but not in the way you may think. Bob explained that Pam's sister Beth is by all accounts a very smart, successful, respectful woman. She just so happens to like sex. Bob explained that Beth is really into the kink scene and is into things like ethical non-monogamy. She frequently mentions her adventures to Bob and Pam, and it got them into the lifestyle as well. I was a little surprised, and I asked for clarification, and he said yeah, she kind of got us into some of that stuff. I was shocked. I mean, how often do you hear that your coworker is into BDSM? But hey, no kink shaming from me. So, it turns out that Beth isn't some soul-sucking, home-wrecking, out-of-control succubus. She's just a regular woman who loves sex. Bob said that Pam was scared that we would hit it off. We share many of the same interests and have similar personality types according to Bob. Pam wasn't lying about that, nor that I was exactly her type. She likes tall guys, and from what I've heard, she'd have been all over me if she found out I was single. Well, now I was curious, so I asked Bob if he had a picture. He pulled up her Instagram, and I must say she was damn gorgeous. She looked like Pam's twin, only she was a little bit thicker. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty pissed at Pam all over again, lol. Bob said that Pam has always been a little jealous of Beth. I don't know why. Pam is a stunner herself, and looks just like Beth. Bob said that as a FU to Pam, He'd give her my Insta so we can DM each other, and he'd put in a good word for me. I thanked him profusely lol. He said that Pam was so desperate to make amends with me because I made a big impression on her, and she thinks that we'd be really good friends if we hung out. Bob said that she was just grasping at straws at this point. She's lost all of her friends, and she wanted to make another one. He said that he'd rein Pam in so that she wouldn't bother me anymore. By this point, Bob is more than tipsy. He says that he's having doubts about this marriage because the wedding process and aftermath have been a nightmare. He thinks it'd be really shallow to divorce her over this, but his life has been ruined by her choices. I was shocked, and he said don't tell Pam please. I swore that I wouldn't tell her anything. Bob paid for our drinks, and he was going to take public transportation home, but I told him he needs an Uber. He fought me on that, but I insisted and he agreed to take one. I put him in the Uber and sent him on his way. An hour later, Pam texted me from his work phone. She told me, "Thank you for taking care of my hubby, you're a good person." I didn't respond. And that brings us to now. I hope that this is mostly the end of it, but it seems like Pam might be desperate and do something rash. In any case, I'll keep you fine folks updated. Hey everyone, nothing major has happened, but I have a small update. Bob was true to his word and gave Beth my Instagram. She messaged me last week and we got to talking. The conversation went so well that we agreed on a coffee date this past weekend. Well, sorry to disappoint the naysayers here, but the date went extremely well. We talked about a lot, our hobbies, interests, futures, jobs, and families. Bob was right, we are remarkably similar, even down to some of our specific food tastes. The date went so well that we met at a bar next to her office for some after-work drinks. And yes, that date went amazing as well. Now here's the part I think you're all going to like. We're going to do a hike this coming weekend, and along the way, we're going to make a stop at the winery where Bob and Pam had their wedding and pick me up some goddamn apple cider donuts. I think if all goes well with this date, I'm going to ask her to be my girlfriend. She just feels special. So that's it. I'll let you know how that hike date goes, but honestly, I think this situation is mostly settled now. Bob has been keeping his distance, but hooked me up, and Pam hasn't been in contact with me for a week now. After the hike, it'll probably be my last post. I don't intend on milking this thing for unnecessary drama. Update 3, it means a lot. Now on to the update. As I mentioned last time, me and Beth had met and had gone on a few dates. She's truly an amazing woman. She's smart, funny, driven and very nice. I'm absolutely smitten with this girl lol. Well, we had a hike this past Saturday and it was beyond amazing. The weather was perfect, the foliage was beautiful, and the view from the top of the mountain was amazing. We had a picnic at the top of the mountain, and during a lull in the conversation, I summoned all of my courage and asked her if she'd like to be my girlfriend. I was waiting for a more opportune time, but I guess I just got swept up in the moment and view. She smiled, laughed and said I was the corniest person alive for asking in such a cliché place, but she said that she loved corny and cliché. She said yes, and we sealed it with a kiss. On our way back, we finally stopped by the winery where Bob and Pam had their wedding and man it really was beautiful. It had panoramic views of the mountains, and the vineyard was very pretty. But I wasn't here for the view, I was here for some goddamn apple cider donuts. Funny enough, we got there kinda late and almost missed the fresh donuts for the day. Thankfully we got some of the last batches. God, those donuts were absolutely delicious. We got 2 dozen each and even got some apple filling cider donuts. The wait was worth it. Afterward we went back to her apartment and made dinner together. I've never had such an amazing date with a woman. It was just perfect. I didn't want to leave, but I couldn't be presumptuous. When I picked up my keys to go, she grabbed them from me and said, and I quote, "If you seriously think you're leaving, then you're out of your fucking mind." I must have had the biggest smile on my face, so we spent the rest of the weekend together. We had a wonderful Sunday brunch, and a nice walk around our city holding hands going into stores and sightseeing. Unfortunately for me, we had to part last night because we had work in the morning. I was damn near in tears lol. This is going to sound dramatic as hell, but I've spent the last few hours at work being totally miserable that I'm not with Beth. It's like when you're in high school and you get your first boyfriend/girlfriend and you can't stand to be apart from each other. But you don't want sappy love stories, you're here for the drama. Well, me and Beth made it Instagram official on Sunday, and apparently Pam saw it on her sister's profile. She texted Beth on Sunday night, "How do you know Op?" She said, "Bob introduced us." Pam only replied with, "I knew this would happen. We figured that might mean trouble down the road, but we don't care, Pam can be as mad as she wants." This morning, I actually went up to Bob and thanked him for introducing me to Beth. He explained that he and Pam had a huge fight over him introducing us. He said he didn't care about it though, it was worth it just to get us together and was a big FU to Pam. I told him I'd buy him around as a thank you, but he said don't worry about it, and that it was the least he could do, so that's it for this update. I'd like to hope that this is the end, but Pam seems pretty upset with us being together. Either way, I'm just so happy with Beth, she's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of person. And rest assured I'll update if anything further happens. Peace and love. Story 6. Told my mom she's happier without me and her new life makes me feel unwanted. Now she's cut me off until I'm ready. I'm 16F, like I mostly live with my dad, but I spend a weekend every month with mom. They divorced 3 years ago. Mom moved in with my cousin and it was cool cause I went there all the time. Like a year and a half ago mom made me go there, introduced me to this girl and came out to me and said they were dating. She and her fiancé are engaged now. She also said they were moving to Victoria in a week. So yeah, after a week she was gone. From where I am to her it's a drive, a ferry ride and then another drive. It takes a while to see her, that's why I can only go once a month. Since she left everything's so sucky between us. Now it's like a good morning message and FT good night for 5 minutes. And everything else that changed with her just dipping like that sucks too. I don't even like visiting her cause it's like I don't belong with her and her fiancé, but I went cause I thought that she wanted to see me and I miss her a lot every day. This weekend I was in Victoria and she was FT my cousin while I studied and they got to wedding talk. She said stuff like how her life is 100x better since she left, how she's finally got real happiness in her fiancé. Her fiancé is her world now and can't wait to fully move on from her old life. It just made me so freaking angry, like her life is so much better with me barely in it. And move on from that old life? I'm from that old life. I guess she noticed I was pissed cause at night she tried to talk to me. I said I didn't want to talk, but she's like she deserves to know when something's wrong with her girl since I always seem so depressed whenever I come over, and it just made me snap and I lost it and started shouting at her. I was like, I fucking hate the way she came out cause my life got a lot worse and it ruined things between us and it sucks that it's like she wants me gone cause she's happier without me. That started a pretty bad argument cause she was like I'm blowing it out of proportion. I just don't understand, and then mom just left the room, but I heard her crying when I walked by her room to go to the washroom at night. In the morning her fiancé drove me to the ferry right after breakfast instead of after dinner. Since then it was just text cause I didn't want to talk to her. My dad and his GF have noticed my attitude, so yesterday I told them what happened and he flipped telling me I couldn't say that shit to my mom, and his GF said I was an asshole for saying it. Before I went to sleep I FTD mom to talk again and she said my happiness is hers and if she's why I'm depressed I shouldn't see her till I'm ready. Now I don't know like if I was wrong to say that shit to mom or what I should do even. My fucking counselor is still in Barbados. My dad's at work and his GF's like she's staying out of it, and my cousin did too. Update 1. I called my uncle. He wanted to see me, cause I was scared my dad told him, and then he's ashamed of me too cause he's gay and he's my fave uncle ever. So he picked me up after school and I went to his apartment and he just gave me a big hug cause he knew something was up. So I told him what I said and why I said it, and that I was scared he'd be mad at me too if my dad was the one who told him. He just told me he isn't mad and he understands, and we played basketball at the court nearby until it was time for him to drop me off. That was like the last time I've even felt actually happy cause the entire rest of this month has been such absolute shit. Like I phoned my mom to say sorry the day after and talk about how I feel, but all she did was get mad at me for telling my uncle and said I'm not allowed to share stuff about her home without her permission. I said was sorry about both things, but she said it didn't matter now and just hung up. Then her fiancé texted and just said to give my mom a few days to calm down. That just made me mad cause why should I? She's my mom. I should be able to phone her whenever, and I tried but she just declined my call and then I think turned off her phone. I dunno, I haven't slept properly at all since then cause I think I ruined things with my mom for good, like all she's been doing is texting me and we've barely actually talked. Like I keep thinking about it and my thoughts and dreams just get all messed up, and it's like I get this soft lump in my stomach that keeps coming and going the more I think about it. It feels like I was right about me being part of her old life and I wish I'd never said what I did to her. Then it turns out I was supposed to get a tetanus shot when I was 11, but I didn't for some reason. We're not anti-vaxxers, so I had to get it now cause dad said Vicha was on his ass and I ended up having a terrible allergic reaction to it. Like I got sent to the hospital for a week cause of it. Like apparently super rare reaction, hooray for me. And that fucked up my exams too, and my mom didn't even come see me cause she was going to a cabin with her fiancé the day after. She talked to my dad on the phone and learned how bad it was, but just texted me she knew I'd be better and that if I was still there when she came back she'd come right away. Like it made me want to stay in the hospital for longer. She didn't fucking come, everyone came but her. Like my cousin came every day and my dad's GF even slept by me a few days, and my nieces and even my boyfriends and best friends' moms came but mine didn't. And when I got out all I got was a text saying so happy you're out of the hospital baby, with a selfie from her and her partner showing off the cabin included with it. Like I couldn't stop looking at that stupid photo. I like obsessed over it for days and kept getting that stupid feeling in my stomach, and so I smashed my phone and my dad's GF heard and he got an emergency meeting with my counselor. She's a psychologist but I've always called her that. Set up. And I told her everything but more details obvi, and at the end of it she said I'm very likely depressed and might need treatment. I dunno, I got scared and asked her to tell my dad, and she did, and told us to get our family doctor give a referral to a psychiatrist to get proper diagnosis for treatment or to just get it from the family doctor. My dad got scared and made us get that referral the next day. My dad made the appointment and asked my mom to come, but she said she won't be able to and just texted me to stay strong and remember I'm the most important thing in the world to her. I don't know what to do. I don't want meds or anything, I just want my mom to love me like she used to again. If you guys have any advice on what to do I need to hear it cause it's like my mom isn't even listening to me anymore and the appointment is on Friday and I'm feeling scared. Update 2. The day after I wrote my post I had my niece's mom, My cousin-in-law, but she introduces me as her little sister, so Sil, drive me to my uncle, and he just gave me the biggest hug ever, and I dunno, I just ended up crying a little and they ended up calming me down. I told my uncle about the appointment with the psychiatrist and that I was scared even though everybody, you guys, was saying it would be okay, and that I'd just been so unhappy and that I just missed my mom so much. He agreed to go with me and my dad to the psychiatrist cause my mom wouldn't be coming. I dunno, I just didn't sleep at all that night and just felt so scared in the morning and kept thinking about mom and didn't want to go to school either, but I did go, just felt so weird, like that feeling in my stomach was just there and not going away. Only hanging out with my boyfriend felt right, and before lunchtime I just fell asleep in class and got sent to the office. They phoned my dad and he signed me out and dropped me off at my uncle's house. He was already taking care of my niece, so I felt bad, but I went to sleep at the same time as her and he took a really cute photo of us sleeping next to each other. He woke me up when my dad came back and we just went to the psychiatrist together. Long story short, at the end of the appointment the psychiatrist prescribed me a really low dose of antidepressants cause I'm still scared. I've been taking them and they have made me feel a bit better, but I have another appointment next week cause my counselor says I might need a higher dose. When I vented to my counselor, she said she'd be willing to host an extra joint session between me and my mom on Zoom if she agreed, and that it might help if I get my feelings across with a third party. I didn't want to do it, but some of you recommended it and my counselor said it could be a good first step. So I called my mom and it was a short conversation again, but she agreed to the counseling session and all I had to do was send her the Zoom link, so we set one up for later. So I had the Zoom session in our computer room so I'd be all alone there, and at first my mom seemed so excited cause she was like, we can work through our issues and put them behind us. I don't want to talk about all of it, I mean I couldn't anyway, I can't remember most of it, but it didn't go good at all. Like when my counselor brought up me not being with her that much, my mom said when I came to UVic I'd obviously stay with her, and I just said after everything I didn't even want to go UVic anymore and would rather just go to UBC cause everybody here actually wants me. My mom said that was ridiculous since outside of Waterloo UVic was the best option for software engineering in Canada and UBC only has electrical computer engineering, so I'd have to go to her if I still wanted to do that. I remember my mom said like a few times like she'd spent over a decade doing nothing but be a mom, and now that she finally understood herself she just wanted time to explore that, and I should appreciate that. Then at the end of it I told my mom that I hated that she didn't come and see me in the hospital and that she didn't even phone me. Like I told her I was scared I'd die and she just said it wasn't that serious cause it was a vaccine and those protect us, and to not act like it was serious. I dunno, that made me mad and I just muted my mic cause I didn't want them to hear me crying, but I kinda had a breakdown and just ran out to my dad and his fiancée cause I was crying. They said they ended the session, but I don't know what they said to my mom or the counselor. Apparently I fell asleep crying on the couch while hugging my dad, but I don't remember any of it, but my dad said I was crying really loudly. I think they carried me to their bed cause when I woke up in the morning I was there and my dad was on a mattress by the door and she was on one by the washroom door. They said it was to block me cause they were scared I'd try something. My dad took my new phone and laptop from me for a bit and said it might be healthy for me to stay off them for a bit. I have them back now. I haven't talked to my mom at all since then, I mean not even good morning good night texts. She hasn't contacted me at all about my broken ankle even though I had surgery yesterday, and I feel like she doesn't even care that I got hurt. Like I know dad told her that I'm going to surgery but she hasn't called. I have my phone and laptop back now, but my dad made me delete IG and Snap cause he's worried seeing her on there might trigger me. A lot of you said I should stop talking to Hour, but I feel bad about it, like when I think about it makes me feel worse, like it's over now and I don't have her anymore. I just want her back. The only time I learn what's up with her is if I go to my cousin, who my mom stayed with after the divorce, and ask, and apparently she's still happy and is occupied with all her wedding planning. Like another thing that sucks is that I used to love watching Scream with my cousin, but now I can't even watch it cause I feel bad for Billy cause his mom left him too, and I feel bad for feeling like that cause he's the villain. So I couldn't even get through our rewatch and we couldn't even watch the new one. I told my counselor that I still feel really bad and sad and nothing's changed, and she said I need to bring it up at my next appointment with the psychiatrist so he can up my dose. I don't know, I feel confused and I don't like not seeing or talking to my mom at all. I feel like I've done the wrong thing. I've tried to do things we used to with my dad's fiancée and my boyfriend's mom, but it's not the same, and I just miss her more even though she probably doesn't miss me at all. I wish I could see her, but I don't want to keep ruining things for myself cause what if she doesn't want me anymore? I'd ran to my counselor about it, but I'm stuck in the hospital bed till Friday, so I guess that's why I'm back here looking for advice on what to do when I'm out of here. Update 3. Pretty much, I don't know if my mom hates me still or if now she wants to be my mom again, cause everything that she's done lately has made it so confusing. So my foot is still bad. The doctor said it's healing, but I'm mostly confined to crutches or to a wheelchair, and so I'm not really able to go to a lot of places. I mean I can go anywhere, but I don't go cause it just takes too long to get around. I'm guessing that my cousin told my mom cause apparently she came to New Westminster and did her wedding dress shopping there with my cousin and her fiancé, and she didn't even tell me. I know we hadn't talked since the therapy session, but she promised me that I would get to do that with her and she didn't even tell me. I found out cause when I visited my cousin she showed me the dresses she was going to wear at the wedding and at the reception and the ones my mom and her got for me to wear at those. I was confused cause I was sad she didn't take me, but happy cause that meant she still wanted me there. Anyway, her wedding was on Canada Day and I went with my cousin to Victoria a week earlier. My dad did say I didn't need to go, but I didn't want to miss it. We stayed at an Airbnb that my mom got for some of our relatives cause her place was too small. She didn't come to visit me there, but my cousin went to meet her and I didn't go cause my foot was hurting really bad. When she came back she said my mom was really disappointed I didn't come as well. The day after I was going to go shopping downtown with my cousin, but then my mom came. Like when she saw me she didn't give me a hug like she usually gives, she just kind of held my shoulders and gave an awkward kiss on the cheek and said she's glad that I decided to come. Then she kind of turned me over to my aunt, my mom's cousin, to go shopping with instead cause she and my cousin would be busy that week with all the wedding stuff and making sure it all went perfectly so we couldn't go downtown. I love my aunt so it wasn't bad going to downtown with her, she didn't even mind pushing me in the wheelchair, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. 2 days before the wedding they had this really big meet the family's dinner where my mom and her wife were introducing people to their relatives. Cause my foot got swollen and the boot was hurting and I had to go in the wheelchair. So my mom didn't even introduce me to people, and one of the few times I was able to talk to her, this guy related to her wife interrupted us, asked who I was and she just said don't worry about her and then had an aunt of mine wheel me away. That made me really upset, but I did feel a bit better cause her fiancé's parents brought gifts for me, not my kind of stuff. I think they thought I was younger than I am. The wedding itself was cool. My foot wasn't badly swollen then so I was able to use my crutches. My mom acted so differently then and made me take a bunch of pictures with her and with her fiancé, and she seemed so happy and told me that it was the best day of her life only cause I came. At the reception I wore the dress that she got me, but I couldn't walk in the crutches while wearing it, not like the wedding one. So my aunt made me go in that dress and in my wheelchair even though I didn't want to. And my cousin said I could wear a different dress, but my aunt was like my mom got the dress specially for me and will be upset if I don't wear it. Then at the reception I wasn't seated at the table with family near the stage where she and her fiancé sat, but at a table with kids I didn't even know, even though some of my relatives younger than me were at the family table. My aunt said they moved me there cause of my wheelchair, but I just don't get why I couldn't be with my family. My mom didn't even take a photo with me at the reception. She just came to me once and said hi, and I wasn't even in the family photo cause we didn't bring my crutches cause of my wheelchair, so my aunt said my mom told them to leave me cause they couldn't fit me in. Then the day after we were going home my mom came to say goodbye to us. She talked to me alone for a minute and then she said sorry for everything that happened between us before and that she was hoping we could get past it. But if we couldn't she was still happy I came to her wedding. I didn't really get to say anything cause she just hugged me and sent us on our way. I don't feel that sad everything anymore though cause I think that the antidepressants have been helping. I have been feeling happier for about a month now and nothing has happened to me like I was afraid. For the last 2 weeks, my mom has been texting good morning and good night again when I didn't do anything, like text, call or phone or FaceTime since the therapy session with her. It hasn't been more than that, but I've been saying it back. I'm just confused with the way she's acting and what she wants. Do you guys have any clue or advice? Edit. I wish I could say thank you to everybody who has commented and given advice. I'm sorry if I didn't respond to you personally, but it means so much to me that you guys cared. I've read everything and I will be bringing up a lot of this with my counselor. Update 4. So I got a phone call from my mom and I did answer cause I guess I was curious cause she's only been texting me since her wedding and she said she wanted me to come over, and even though I was really missing her, because I was going to go with my uncle's family to Seattle that weekend, I said no. I think I would have said no anyway because I was just planning on staying away like everybody here suggested, and my counselor also said that it might be good to define my life without her. She said okay, but then the day after I think she phoned my dad because he came said that I had to go to Victoria instead. I told him I didn't want to go, but we ended up arguing and he said that I didn't have a choice and my uncle would take me somewhere when I got back. So my dad dropped me and my cousin off at the ferry, and when we got to Victoria it turns out my mom and her wife, I guess stepmom now, moved into their new house. My mom's wife wasn't there cause she was in Ottawa for work, but her parents did come. They're really nice. They kind of went on about how they thought they'd never have grandkids and were so happy when they learned my mom had me. They did offer to get me some presents this time, but my mom let them take me to dinner to some pierogi place in downtown instead. I don't know what to think about the visit because so much of it was good, but the one bad part was really bad. When I got there, I wanted to talk to her about the stuff at her wedding and everything else, and I wanted to tell her that I would rather have gone with my uncle, but then I just felt really nervous and just couldn't because I don't know. I kind of felt like I'd just ruin the entire trip if I did. So I just didn't, and maybe that was the wrong thing. The first thing I noticed in her house was her giant graduation picture where she's holding a baby me above the fireplace. Then my mom surprised me by showing me my room, and it's perfect. I have a huge bed, a big personal washroom, a walk-in closet, one of those fancy standing desks, and a TV. It's all white cause my mom was like when my foot is better she wants me to come and paint and decorate it all with her. She even promised she'd never let anybody use the room even if I'm not there that often. The first night after I got back from the pierogi place, my mom, my cousin and I stayed up so late just watching TV, and I even fell asleep hugging her. The next day we went to downtown and my mom took us shopping and then to the Royal BC Museum, the one with the mammoths. My foot and my hands really started hurting after because my mom made me use my crutches and not wheelchair because she said it'd be good exercise, so then she took us to a spa. We took so many pictures and I'm pretty sure she put them on Instagram, but I'm not allowed on it anymore so I'm not sure. I was really tired when we got back so I conked out right away, and when I woke up in the morning, Mom actually brought me pancakes in bed cause of my foot, cause I love it when she makes those. The rest of that day was good too, except at night my mom said that when I moved in for university, we could make every day like this, so I reminded her that I might go to UBC instead. We got into a really big argument about university and I did scream at her and bring up stuff from before, but pretty much my mom said that she wants me to go to UVic if I still want to do software engineering, and said that if it was any other kind of engineering I wanted to do she wouldn't mind paying for UBC, but that it's not good for software. She did say she would still pay no matter where I went, but she'd be really disappointed if I chose not to go to the best university for my degree where I could stay with her just cause I blamed her coming out and moving for everything bad that's happened to me since then. She also said I needed to stop exaggerating how bad everything has been because it shouldn't make me change my university plan. I tried telling her that's not what I meant, but I couldn't say it right and I fucking started crying and she seemed to get really mad. She didn't yell or anything, but she just gave a frustrated sigh and said I needed to stop crying, grow up and accept that she handled things the best way she could and my attitude problems were why it's been a bad year for us. That just made me cry more, and she said if I don't grow up I'm never going to get a husband, and then left the room. I just kind of kept crying cause I don't feel like any of that is true, and the husband part was so fucking weird and I honestly can't stop thinking about that part specifically. Half an hour later she came back with water and made me drink and started telling me how if I want to do computer or electrical or any other engineering she'd support UBC, but that UVic is the best for software outside of Waterloo and she doesn't want to send me so far away but will still pay for it if that's what I choose. I don't know why she wanted to keep talking about that, but I didn't, so I just agreed when she said she'll take me to talk to an advisor to convince me next time I come over. Me and my cousin left early next morning, so yesterday, and my mom said she'd try and come over for my birthday because her in-laws really wanted to attend and that she'd try and make an appointment at UVic once my foot's better. The thing is that argument was the one bad thing about that visit. Everything else would have been perfect because it was just like it used to be with her, and I don't even know if I'd be posting if it had been, but I just can't stop thinking about the stuff that she said when we argued. I don't even know why she said the husband thing. I just don't get what the fuck she meant by that or why she would bring it up. I'm not going to smash my phone this time, but I do feel mad thinking about it. I told my cousin about the argument we had on the way back and she told me she personally thinks I should go to UBC and would try to convince my mom, but that she thinks she just wants me to live with her again. I told my dad and his fiancée about it and he apologized for making me go but said that he had to. He and his fiancée have checked on me a dozen times already. I'm get that stupid fucking feeling in my stomach again every time I think about it, and I wish I'd been able to go with my uncle instead. But I'm going to spend the rest of the week at his apartment, so I guess it's fine. I'm going to go to my counselor again today before my uncle picks me up. Does anybody have any advice for me that I can bring up? Cause we went through comments posted here last time. Update 5. So, some stuff has happened. I've pretty much just been texting with my mom since my visit to her. I tried to keep it good night/good morning, but when I didn't respond to her other messages, she phoned my dad and he told me I didn't have to phone her but to at least respond to her other messages. I did have to go to Victoria for Thanksgiving because her wife's whole family was going to be there and she told my dad I had to go. I was only there for 3 days with my cousin, and the first 2 days, my mom pretty much spent with me and it was like it used to be again. Like she and I went shopping, we even cuddled to sleep watching TV again, but the third day she and her wife were focused on the dinner and guests and everything, so I get it. Yeah, I was upset that she paid really little attention to me, but her wife's entire immediate family was there and I get that she needed to focus on them. But when we left after dinner, we had to take the really late ferry. My mom said bye and that she was going to book a meeting at UVic to take me to, and didn't even give me a second to talk about it before waving us bye. And then it went back to just texting good morning/good night until my birthday. So then my mom and her wife came with her wife's parents because my mom was like they really wanted to celebrate my birthday. I guess they're my step-grandparents, but I really like them and they seem to really like me too. I mean, step-grandma said the best thing about the wedding was that they finally got a grandchild and they brought a lot of presents for me. They have a niece around my age and they had her go out with them and just get so much stuff that they think someone my age will like, and I do like it. My mom got me an album of pictures of us and said to look at the photos whenever I miss her cause it'll make it like she's right there with me. At the party, mom and dad seemed to get along just like when they were married. Like they were laughing, telling jokes, and even had me do goofy pictures with them like we all used to. Mom's wife got along with dad's fiancée and with my uncle, his son and his son's wife. My mom didn't talk to my uncle at all beyond when he came to say hi to her, and she said hi in a really mean tone to him, which was weird since they used to be so close. I guess she's still mad at him for when I talked to him about what was going on. She was really weird with my boyfriend and was non-stop making jokes about him and me getting married and making her a grandma. She straight up said to him, I don't want you to wait until I'm gray and in my 40s to make me a grandma. But his mom also got in the jokes, so I guess it was just a mom thing? My mom and her wife left after only about an hour and a half in to go stay at a fancy hotel all the way over by Cole Harbor, even though my dad did offer them a room. Mom just said she doesn't feel it'd be appropriate to stay in the same house as him and it's too painful for her cause she designed the house when I asked her why she couldn't stay. It did piss me off cause they came at 4 o'clock and so when everyone was setting up and I guess that means they missed the actual party. My step-grandparents stayed though and only left in the morning when my mom and her wife came to pick them up. Then at like 8:30, my mom did FaceTime me but it looked like she and her wife were in the hotel spa or something. It doesn't make sense cause I thought those closed pretty early in the day but they were wearing those robes and looked like they were someplace really fancy. Then my mom was like she has to hang up cause she doesn't want me to see them without clothes on and they were both giggling at that. That really fucking pissed me off that they ditched my birthday to go hang out in a spa. Maybe they were actually doing something else but I honestly don't want to even think about that beyond what I have. Then there was the album that she gave me as a present. I didn't really think about that a lot then because I was just happy that she came. But I did try yesterday because my dad's fiancée was meeting with some of her relatives for last minute planning because her and dad's wedding is on Sunday. I wasn't with them because I was studying but when I did leave my room to get my charger I heard them talking about me. My dad's fiancée was saying the best stuff about me but her relatives were saying some shitty things about my mom and she wasn't stopping them. She was also talking about how my mom is forcing my dad's hand to send me to her over winter break instead of my uncle's cause that's when their honeymoon is. I didn't meant to spy and I get now that I'm writing about it that what they were saying wasn't exactly wrong and they were only saying it because they didn't think I'd hear but it really fucking pissed me off and it still does. So cause I was upset I looked at the album and it's pictures of both of us from when I was a baby until now. Behind each picture she slid a note about why that memory is special or what the picture means to her if she can't remember. But it just made me angry because of how few photos there are from after she moved to Victoria. Most of them are the ones of the wedding day and barely anything before that. There's one photo in it that was like a month before she came out and it's when she lived at my cousin's house and pretty much I surprised her with the cookies that my cousin and I made that day. When I surprised her, she hugged me so tight and told me she was so proud of me and my cousin took the photo on her phone. But that night I found her crying in her room and she said it's because I'm growing up and said something like how she wishes she could live in moments like that forever since she's so proud of me. And it just makes me so mad because that's what I want back and the fact that I'm not even in photos of her pre-wedding events and reception and so much other stuff in Victoria just makes it seem as if the album is her giving me proof that I've barely been in her life and that I should be happy for it. And I know I shouldn't be thinking that because she actually gave me such a good gift and I'm poisoning it in my own mind instead of valuing it and all the memories inside. My therapist has been trying to help me define life without her and it's hard cause I don't want to because I can't let go of this feeling that it could be good again and I don't want those people to be right. My therapist says it's alright to want that, but for my own sake I need to in case it doesn't ever happen and it'll help once I'm in university so I've been trying but I hate it.